Jameson Williams, the speedster, has a block. Williams cuts up, 25, 20, still on his feet. Jameson Williams scores!
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
Here's Purdy with a lot of time. Steps into one. Launching deep. Going for Brandon Ayuk. It is. Oh, he caught it off the ricochet. Penalty. Is he in?
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important. So is your budget.
Third down, four-man rush. Purdy in some trouble. Escapes, looking for the first down. He's got it and more. Brock Purdy with the legs inside the 30.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Here's Kansas City from the 19, throwing at the goal line, and it's caught by Kelsey for the touchdown.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
2nd and 8 from the 9. Jackson to Flowers. He dives. The ball came out. It's recovered by Kansas City. Did the ball come out before he broke the plane?
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
2nd and 10 to the end zone again, and it is intercepted. Intercepted by Deion Bush, who just came in 2 plays ago for Mike Edwards.
Now here's David Smoak and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go on this Friday afternoon with a huge story in college football and sports, athletics, with what the SEC and Big Ten are doing, but we'll get to that in just a second. Craig Smoak, I'm David Smoak. Garrett Ross runs the mothership. Jack McKenzie here today as well. Paul Catalina is up in Lawrence, Kansas, going to be at that Houston and KU game tomorrow afternoon. You see on our set, you have milestones, and eventually you say, okay, enough. We've been doing this for a while. Craig has counted every show throughout the last nearly 4 years since we signed on with this show, and this is show 1,000. Number 1,000. That's from the Great American Cookie Company at the Richland Mall, just off the loop in Waco, and we appreciate them for doing that for us. Craig, show 1,000. I guess the next time we do it, well, I don't even know if we need to count the shows anymore, but I know you'll keep up with it.
No, we're not going to have any more anniversaries. I'm going to tell you right now, because I'm not going to do it, every 1,500. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But, I don't know how much more I'll keep up with the log, but it was just something I started doing at the very beginning when we were in Paul's attic, basically, and had some people saying, well, what are you even doing? And now there's a lot of people who followed our lead. And I don't say that in any way but a positive, because it's true, and there's others as well that put their broadcast out there during the COVID period and during a time when a lot of people didn't know what they were doing, and I feel like we were among those people and a lot of others, and that deserve mentions as well, and it turned into all this eventually. So to be 1,000 shows in, knowing that we basically just started this thing during COVID and then had some great partners that set us up with the studio and all the bells and whistles and everything, to now be here, 4 years later?
Almost.
And still going pretty strong is really cool. So, to have this thing continuously growing and still be here day in and day out, doing 3 hours a day and more when you count the extra videos and things like that, it's been a fun run. And, I don't think we're going to be celebrating any – I don't think I'm going to do 1,500 and get into that. I think if I did anything, and fellas, let's knock on wood that we ever get there, but I'm talking 5,000. So the odds of that aren't great, but we'll see how it goes. And right now it's cool to celebrate 1,000. Let's focus on that.
We are, and that's why the cookie cake is in front of us, and we'll take that down and start to take care of the cookie cake here momentarily. So 1,000 great sponsors. Thanks to Brian Etheridge, also to Ashley Hodge, and also Colt Barber, who reached out to us for it was almost 4 years ago, about starting something they wanted to do, and the perfect timing for us being able and available to do that. Now, let's get to the stories of the day. By the way, Jonathan Skrmetti, He is the Attorney General of Tennessee. Part of that lawsuit against the NCAA will join us at the bottom of the hour. National championship coach Scott Drew, also a part of today's show, among Grayson Grundhafer and others. So the Big Ten in the SEC, this is by no means a surprise. This is Brandon Marcello. They're teaming up to form an advisory committee to examine the future for college sports. Sankey, the SEC commissioner, we do not expect to agree on everything, but enhancing interaction between our conferences will help to focus efforts on a common sense solution. The Big Ten, you see it at the top, substantial investment in the NCAA. Bottom line here, this is part of every time you turn around, you think, okay, now it's about Tennessee, Virginia against the NCAA, but there's always been that kind of out there, the cloud, that there might be something additional or separated from what we have now when it comes to FBS or the Power Five and parts of the others group of five. And this is just a start. Maybe they felt like, you know what, we haven't got enough attention lately. We're going to do this and let people know we are serious about getting it done.
Yeah, I don't think it's that. I think it's that something has to give, because I think that they can read the room and realize, as much as people want to say the TV ratings are the best they've ever been, that may very well be true, but I don't think that the sport's the best it's ever been. I don't think that it's been on a trajectory of being the best that it's ever been, because there's just too much outside nonsense going on, and we've had more coaches in the last 24 hours either be rumored to leave the college ranks or look like they're leaving the college ranks to go do something else in the pros, and that is not, I think, becoming coincidental now at this point. I think that is a sign of sort of what was being said here and there all along, of coaches not being all that excited about this era and what you have on your plate as a college coach versus, let's say, an NFL coach or a high school coach even. I mean, we talked to Joe Gillespie earlier this week, and he's like, I'm going back to high school ranks. Now, I don't know what his offers were, but I feel like he could have stuck around like A&M Commerce or some level of football. Guy was just, coaching in a national championship game 2 years ago, but he's in the high school ranks again, and we're seeing various others. There's rumors about Chip Kelly. Is he about to leave UCLA to go be an OC in Washington? So we all know it's crazy, even the ones who don't have to really worry about it all that much, your Alabamas, your schools in those conferences. I think they realize, too, that this is unsustainable the way that it is, or it's just not the best way that it can be. So I'm very hesitant to give them too much credit, because we're here primarily because of those two conferences. Remember the alliance the Big Ten was a part of, and what that turned into? The death of one of the members, and the other one's teetering right now. And the one that was also part of that, the Big Ten, is the only one that's really all that unfazed or healthy at the moment. How this all get started? Texas and Oklahoma.
That's what launched it, yeah.
I mean, that's where you can kind of start this chapter of realignment. I mean, there's obviously been other realignment before, but that's really where it started, was Texas and Oklahoma, and then what? Big Ten with USC and UCLA. So all this conference realignment has had to do with outside factors like television contracts and these various things, but you can't sit there and tell me that those two didn't have a driving force in all that's going on right now. And so basically what this is those two realize they're the most powerful people in the room, and that nothing's going to get done without them, and that basically everybody else could go and form committees and do all of the work, but those two could just say, no, we don't want to do that, and then it doesn't matter. So the guys who matter in the decision-making the most are finally going to just go ahead and start making some decisions, or at least forming this committee to get input and research and due diligence on the best steps moving forward for college football. And since they are at the top level, you hope that can get solved and then trickle down, and then we can go to a place in time where we can just kind of worry about the sports again and not so much about all of the outside noise and nonsense that's going on. So that's the hope here, is what that is. Some are taking this as though it's the first step towards them breaking off, and I think the first steps have already been taken for that, quite honestly. Maybe this is the next big visible public step towards that, but if you read the write-ups on it, that's not what they're attempting to do. At least that's what they say. Now, I realize, too, that things get said and then they don't always turn out to be the case, like the Big Ten with the Alliance.
Yes.
So you can't only believe people as much as you so choose to there. But I do think there is actually a focus on the greater good here, and the fact that everybody knows that some things need to get done or worked on or changed to get out of the courtrooms all the time and to get just onto the actual jobs that you were hired to do. And so I think this is a step for that. To the extent that it affects everybody else outside of those two, they are all going to be affected because this is covered in the NCAA. But in the articles, it makes mention that this is not the intent to like start breaking away. This is more just trying to solve the issues that hand in college football. And there's quotes in there from both commissioners talking about not trying to get rid of the NCAA or dissolve it or anything like that, or even go and do their own thing necessarily. But these are those initial continued steps towards whatever this thing looks like on the other end. That's what we know. We can't necessarily say it's going to be this thing, but we know it's going to be different. That's what everybody can agree on. And so this is a big move in whatever that different is going to look like ultimately.
All right, so there you go with that. It's just one more story in the overall landscape of college football. Back to what happened, what was it, on Wednesday with Virginia and Tennessee filing a lawsuit against the NCAA. Dennis Dodd with us one earlier today. And again, a lot of legalese here, but the NCAA shall file a response to Tennessee's motion in antitrust suit by Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 o'clock Central. Plaintiffs shall file a replay before Sunday at 5 o'clock. Preliminary injunction hearing set for February 13th. Happy Valentine's Day with that. And the temporary restraining order can be ordered before preliminary injunction. A lot of legalese, but Dennis Dodd with that for those of you who get into the legal part of it.
Yeah, and another part of the SEC and the Big Ten, I mean, what's happening right now? You've got a couple SEC schools that are being investigated, and some, in Tennessee's case, for issues that weren't even rules at the time, and that's a big debate. And so that's, also I think the timing, you can't ignore that this week, that it's all just sort of happening at one moment, this back and forth kind of ping pong battle with the schools and the NCAA. And again, they were clear in there that they're not trying to dissolve the NCAA, and in fact, they're trying to work on things that make sense. But yeah, I would have to say that was probably a motivating factor in some ways. And yeah, that's going to be something else that plays out in the court systems, I guess, that we'll just be on the lookout for.
All right, a couple of other college football notes. Iowa, remember, they got Caden Proctor, who is the transfer from Alabama, who's from Iowa. And when the Nick Saban retirement, all of the everyone, okay, what are they going to do? Transfer portal, stay what? He ended up going back to Iowa. Iowa self-reporting level 3 violations, basically contacting him during the time period or how they did it, a text to him while he was still at Alabama after a tough game. I don't see anything happening here. If this is one of the only text messages they investigate, then they're not doing their job, because that there's much deeper tampering going on with, hey, by the way, bad game, you can come down here whenever you decide to, or up here if that's the case too. But there's a level 3 violation. I'm sure there might be a slap on the wrist. I don't see anything else happening where he's ineligible for even a half or anything like that, nor should he be. But there's that with Scott Dockerman from theathletic.com.
Yeah, but you also can't sit there and just have it to where suddenly it's okay to send the occasional text as long as it's vague and not saying, hey, come play here, but you're still continuing the communication. And so, yeah, I don't think that's that big of a deal, but I also could read that as like just stringing it along until you get to the point where you can actually swoop in, right? So that's,
if there are multiple texts
right,
like
so that's
that,
what I'm saying. You gotta go deeper than just one text. I mean, the one text seems pretty harmless, but if it's a combination of just checking in on occasion and just keep your head up, buddy, and it's always from the Tennessee coach or the whoever the opposing coach that's recruiting the guy, I'm just saying in general, not necessarily Caden Proctor, then yeah, you could see where you could kind of play loose with that and stay very vague enough to have contact but not be pursuing a guy illegally. So yeah, I'll be interested to see what they do there. And there always seemed to be some underlying kind of that move seemed to be in the works for a while, old Caden Proctor. And so that's one where, yeah, I'd like to see more information on that. But the one-off text seems pretty harmless, although these college coaches, man, they know where to bend the rules and they know how to get around them. And so if you give them just a little ray of light, they're going to squeak through that door. So, yeah, it will be interesting to see how they punish that, so to speak.
Couple of other college football notes. Liam Cohen leaving Kentucky to become the new offensive coordinator in the NFL, headed to go be a part of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Again, college coaches moving to the NFL. It's not enough of a trend yet where we're like, okay, this is trying to get away from what is a wide open, whatever you want to call it, with the transfer portal, NIL, et cetera. But we've seen that a couple of times. Ryan Grubb, the possibility if he goes back to Seattle with the Seahawks rather than with the University of Washington and where he is now with Alabama.
Yeah, but, I mean, this one I think you can sit there and put that in the category of, well, I would like to hear him speak more on his decision and if there was anything really valid when it comes to leaving the college game specifically, or was it just a guy taking an upward move? Because going from OC in college to OC in the NFL, that's a promotion. That's a bigger job. So I don't think that's that crazy. I do think, same could be applied to Jim Harbaugh, but I think when Jim Harbaugh is specifically stating that he prefers the NFL game or is has won a national title and moved on, I think you can spin that a certain type of way you want to. But the moment like a Chip Kelly leaves a head coaching job to go be an OC, that's when you're like, okay, those are clear like step downs. Right. I don't care if you're going to the NFL. This is not lateral. This is an upward move, but I mean, it's still something to keep track of because there's multiple guys, it feels like we've talked about the last few days, that are making these moves. And so it's what happens during the offseason, but you do wonder and you look a little bit closer nowadays because of the storyline or the subplot of, man, are these college coaches just going to be sick of this at some point? Or how many of them are sick of it? How many of them are moving on to more sane pastures? So, yeah, this one I don't necessarily put in that category, but it is another instance of a move being made. All
right, we're going to come back we're going to take a break here and come back with Attorney General Jonathan Skrmetti of Tennessee. There is a note about Arizona. We'll get to that later with President Robert Robbins about the budget shortfall and all of that and how that might cut into athletics at the University of Arizona. Plus, we'll look at the weekend in the Big 12 with some great games, including the one where Paul is in Lawrence between 4th-ranked Houston on the road against 8th-ranked Kansas. And he'll join us at about 5:05 today from Lawrence, Kansas, with what he's been able to get up for the first time to Allen Fieldhouse and enjoy. I've been in Lawrence. I've been in Allen Fieldhouse just for a little bit, and also even where they're rebuilding that stadium just around the corner. Garrett Ross runs the mothership. Thank you. Those of you here today, thanks to our sponsors. I'm David Smoak with Craig Smoak. This is 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com in the Central Texas Marketplace off I-35 in Waco. They have an MRI machine that is state-of-the-art. I have been in it 3, I think maybe 4 times. If I've needed an image for my doctor who's requested the image to see what's going on with my back, which might affect my hip, or what's happening with inside my abdomen just because of things that you check when you get to be my age, or if something in my shoulder, I had rotator cuff. Dr. Haynes, by the way, Southwest Sports Medicine, unbelievable, the artist, so to speak. But then my left shoulder, and to see kind of where that is that even worth dealing with? I got all the images. Dr. Rob Maxey is phenomenal. He's one of the partners of Ideal MRI. Their goal was to do 2 things. Open a business that does, it's a business. They're making money. They want a business to grow, but people from all over the state come to Waco to get their MRI here because it's only $497 or less every single time. With state-of-the-art technology, tech specialists, those who read the images, and those who will set up the appointment for you and also make sure your check-in is very comfortable. I have been there. It works. It is clockwork. It's flawless. Ideal MRI located in Waco inside the Central Texas Marketplace off I-35, idealmri.com.
Shop big savings during the Ram Truck Month at Allen Samuels in Waco. Ram 1500 is the most luxurious and technologically advanced Ram 1500 ever. There's a great selection on the lot and ready for immediate delivery. Ram Truck Month sales event is a winner at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Pioneer Steel and Pipe opened their doors in 1943, and they have never wavered with their focus on great product and customer service, relationships with a handshake, making sure you, the customer, is satisfied. Their new facility is now twice the size, allowing new inventory, higher quantities, and in a much more organized fashion. In addition to the long lengths in tubing, angles, channels, rods, and flat, Pioneer Steel and Pipe now offers several shorter, more convenient lengths of material already cut. Their 2,500 square foot showroom has over 1,000 new new products in stock, new welding supplies, hardware, quickcrete, and do-it-yourself components for any project, whether you are a professional contractor or weekend warrior. The new facility is designed to make your loading experience faster and more efficient with easy drive lanes around the building and much more room to get your trailer loaded. Our location may have changed, but our values haven't, and our relationship with customers goes much farther than just business. Pioneer Steel and Pipe on Loop 340 and Highway 6 and just east of I-35 in Waco.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Looking to connect with Baylor alums in your area? Baylor Alumni can help. Looking to host a watch party in your city? Baylor Alumni can get you started. Want to step out in your community and serve with other alums? Baylor Alumni is your connection with the university and each other. Let's get started. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Jonathan Skrmetti will join us, the Attorney General of Tennessee, momentarily. While we wait for the call, here is University of Arizona President Robert Robbins. Cutting sports is on the table. For the university. University also miscalculated how much money they're actually in the hole. It was now $140 million. That's a big difference from $240 million, but still a very large number. Matt Brown, with some of his opinions on this, he goes, my educated guess is that Arizona is going to drop a few sports in the near future, and doing so will be for more campus political reasons than actually saving money. The stuff that would really save money is stuff the University of Arizona is absolutely not going to want to do. So they are dramatically saying they're going to dramatically cut expenses and grow revenues in their athletic department. So there does seem to be a little bit of a how do you take that from the University of Arizona and President Robert Robbins?
Well, it's good to be wrong when you have $100 million less to worry about. That's a starting point that's positive for you if you're an Arizona fan. The rest of it, not so great, obviously. But, yeah, I mean, $100 million less to have to worry about coming up with is nice to know. There's still the whole problem of the 140 that you do need to worry about. But, yeah, that's actually a good thing, and not so much the cutting of sports, but we'll see what that actually looks like and when they actually do that. But we know there's a mess over there. There were some people not doing their jobs or just not paying close enough attention to what was supposed to be on their plate, and as a result, they find themselves in this situation. So start to clean up now and clean it up as quick as possible. We'll see how Arizona goes about doing that as they venture into the Big 12.
Earlier this week, Tennessee and Virginia, a lawsuit at the NCAA because of some of the allegations or violations, and of course, we're now joined by Tennessee Attorney General. We appreciate Jonathan Skrmetti for joining us. I know you have a busy schedule, and please appreciate your time in the middle of Texas, Attorney General. Why now? Why is this happening now?
Well, we saw the enforcement start, so it's been very uncertain. The rules have been all over the place. And then all of a sudden you see Florida State get tagged, and there were all these rumors that other universities were coming up. We had a tangle with the NCAA about a potential bowl ban about a year ago. And when there was any indication that Tennessee might be on the list, that suggested we had to start looking at. The NCAA has been bad to the University of Memphis. It's been bad to UT. They are just not fair to the student athletes, and it seemed like the right time to use the antitrust power the state has to say so. And we were joined by Virginia in that, and we're going to fight for these student athletes.
Mr. Skrmetti, when you look at the rights of student athletes, is the desire to have less rules, more openness, more freedom for the student athletes to make decisions, be approached, that types of things, or just have a different, outlet to come up and propose and get these rules taken care of to kind of rope this thing in? What's kind of the end goal here? Is it more freedom, or is it just not having the power in the hands of the NCAA?
I mean, in the long run, the idea is to have clear rules and fair rules where the student athletes that are producing the product that generates all the money for everybody else in this industry get their fair share through their NIL rights. The rules right now are arbitrary. They are unclear. They're constantly shifting, and the enforcement is arbitrary. And we want to make sure that, that it's fair, that the student athletes can get compensated, and also that, you don't have any sort of whack-a-mole situation where there are favorites and there are villains and the rules aren't applied evenly. And that's what it looks like has been happening lately.
Do you feel like the NCAA is hypocritical, or is that too simple?
I mean, it's a huge entity, and that's part of the problem. There's an awful lot going on in the NCAA, and I think it's the students who suffer for that. That may be part of the problem, but it wasn't that long ago they were saying that Tennessee was an example of, cooperation that every other university should follow. UT was self-reporting, cleaned house, voluntarily surrendered scholarships, did everything they were supposed to do. And yet you hear that there's potential trouble on the horizon. But our case is not focused on UT. It's focused on the way the NCAA treats student athletes, and that's just one instance that we're concerned with. There are a lot of schools in Tennessee. There are a lot of athletes in Tennessee that go to schools in other states, and we want to make sure that they're given a fair opportunity to find out what the market value of their NIL rights is, and to be able to make informed decisions about where they want to go to school.
Attorney General, Virginia also filed. Do you expect, and have you had any other phone calls? I'm not sure what you could actually tell me or not, but have you had other states contact you to want to join this too?
So I can't talk specifics about that. I can point to our transfer portal case, which we have in West Virginia. Started off with 7 of us. It's expanded. The US DOJ has jumped in. We've got other states that have jumped in. Now, this one might be a little bit different. It may be that everybody wants to sit it out and see what the legal resolution is, at least until we get through the preliminary injunction stage. So, it wouldn't shock me if more people jumped in, but it's not necessary, and it may or may not happen.
When you look at where you are, and when this came down, what was it, Wednesday, the amount of reaction, and it's almost like what I have felt, and we have a sports law attorney on yesterday, it was almost like everybody's been waiting for this moment. Did you get that feel as well, or that same opinion?
I mean, that's the feeling I got, and that's certainly the way it is here. I mean, there have been a number of arbitrary actions that have gotten my attention, and I've been concerned, and I know Jason Miara's up in Virginia feels the same way. He's a James Madison University alum. He has a reason to be concerned about the NCAA these days. And it was a matter of picking the right time to make a move. And when they started enforcement with FSU, we had to move pretty fast to get this thing together. But the goal is to stop the damage to the student athletes' financial opportunities as soon as possible to avoid another year of them being taken advantage of.
So we've seen the start of this week, and we've seen, as he just mentioned, the feeling that this could be the big one, so to speak. You mentioned the preliminary injunction. Can you kind of just take us through this process as we all wonder what the end goal is? How does this all work starting this week and then moving forward?
Sure. So the way it currently works is players aren't allowed to negotiate NIL rights until they've committed or until they've signed with a school. So they're stuck talking to one collective. They can't go out and test the market, talk to different people, see what different deals are available, and then decide. They have to lock themselves into one particular course, and only then can they talk cost, which means they're not going to get anywhere near the same amount of money. They're not really negotiating in a market. What we are asking for, and we've got a request for a temporary restraining order because the window opens on February 7th. We're asking the court to say that the NCAA cannot enforce those restrictions on NIL negotiations so that student athletes can go out and talk to multiple collectives and see what the different opportunities are so they can make an informed decision rather than having to guess and hope that they're making the best decision for their futures.
I saw where Tim Mead, your press secretary, who helped set this up with us, and we appreciate Tim, but also you, Attorney General, for being a part of the show, where the state has been you have been investigating the NCAA. Is that right, for about a year?
Well, it's not a formal investigation. I sent him a letter about the potential bowl ban last year, saying that would violate Tennessee state law. It would also violate the NCAA's own policy statement, which says we're not going to punish kids who didn't do anything wrong for the actions of a program. In the UT case, there were some problems. They cleaned house, fired people, self-reported, and yet the NCAA was apparently considering a bowl ban for a team of students that had nothing to do with any of the bad conduct. And that's just not fair. And it violates their right to market their NIL rights without arbitrary restriction.
What would you think is the perfect, and I don't know if there's ever any of that, but what would be the perfect scenario in your opinion?
It's hard to say exactly what that looks like. What we have now is pretty bad. There's a lot of talk about how it's the Wild West. I think it's worse than that. It's the Wild West coupled with arbitrary enforcement. If it was just the Wild West, I would say you just need to bring structure in. But really, the two problems here are clarity and fairness. You have to be fair to the student athletes. You have to be fair without regard to, which program is associated with which school. Everybody should be playing by the same rules. Enforcement should be even. The rules should be clear. And the students who are ones out there who create the entire foundation for college sports should be able to get compensated fairly for their NIL rights, because they're the ones that give everybody else the opportunity to prosper.
Do you feel like the NCAA is failing college and student athletes?
Yeah. I think Chancellor Plowman said it very articulately in her letter.
And so the process, Craig asked earlier about what's next. So I saw a report from Dennis Dodd from CBS Sports about there are certain deadlines for filing this or that. What do you expect to be the next part of this lawsuit?
So we're going to find out about the temporary restraining order sometime next week. And then we have a hearing on the preliminary injunction on February 13th, I believe. And at that hearing, both sides are going to show up. They're going to argue whether or not the court should stop the NCAA from enforcing these restrictions for a while until the case can resolve. Now, how these two things turn out doesn't necessarily indicate which way the case is going. We could potentially win the TRO and ultimately lose. We could potentially lose the TRO and ultimately win. Everybody's going to be reading tea leaves, but the fight's going to keep going no matter what. And so we're not going to have real clarity until the end of this, and that could be years from now, potentially. There will be appeals, could go all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. The Alston case did, and that's what triggered this whole situation.
The NCAA is pointing the finger at Tennessee and or Florida State and or whoever. Florida. Are you representing the schools, or are you representing the student athletes who play college athletics?
So UT is a client, just like every other part of the state of Tennessee is a client. But in this case, I have the authority to bring antitrust claims on behalf of the people of Tennessee. And so I'm bringing them on behalf of the student athletes of Tennessee under the federal Sherman Act.
The NCAA is obviously in a world of lawsuits, and here's another one. Is there a world, Mr. Skrmetti, where you see that being an entity that can get its wits about itself, can agree, can come to some types of, agreements and arrangements to where it is still an entity that matters the way that it still does in college sports? Or are you of the opinion that its dying days are ahead of it as an organization having the type of influence that it does?
I think if it's going to get back on track, there have to be some pretty big changes in the way things happen. And part of that is the rules. You've got these new rules. NIL rights are real. State law recognizes them. We've got a law here in Tennessee. And it's almost like the organization was trying to cling to the old rules and sort of adapt to the new ones, but they ended up in this messy in between. And now they're looking to enforce, but they're enforcing in what looks like a pretty arbitrary way. So there's a lot that would have to change to fix those problems. It's a pretty heavy lift.
I got one more question, and we do appreciate your time. Really do. And thanks to Tim Meads and your staff for setting this up. Do you feel like that the schools are giving the players their value, or are the players or student athletes giving the schools value?
I mean, ideally both, but when you look at the amount of money involved in this, the NCAA has set up a rule structure that keeps players from maximizing the value that they can get out of it. The law, I think pretty much everywhere, certainly I think here, says they can't be directly compensated for their play, but they have their NIL rights, and there's certainly lots of ways to monetize that, and their ability to do that has been greatly restricted. What they can receive is suppressed as a result of these NCAA rules, and meanwhile, everybody else is making a fortune in this industry.
Did you ever think when you accepted this position that you would be talking about a lawsuit against the NCAA involving college athletics?
I saw some pretty bad stuff happen with respect to the University of Memphis back in the day, and I'm lying if I said it wasn't a pipe dream, but I never thought it was going to go down like this. I mean, it's been a very dramatic week. Usually we do cool stuff here, but usually it's not this dramatic in such a short period of time.
Thank you very much, Attorney General. Thank you for your time. Good luck moving forward. All we want is for everything to be fair, right? Everything to be fair for whoever runs it, whoever they're running, the players, the student athletes, the schools, et cetera. Thank you very much. Jonathan Skrmetti, Attorney General from the state of Tennessee, with us on 365 Sports. And so he's representing Tennessee as a client, but he's also representing the student athletes in this particular case too. And like Kim Coulter, this is the beginning of the end for the NCAA. But we've heard that before, and maybe this is just another part of the dam breaking. You patch part of it up, then here comes another part of the dam that breaks. And I think the hay's out of the barn, and I think it's going to be almost impossible to put it back in, or any of it back in.
Yeah, it's again, we're going down a road to somewhere. We just don't know what exactly that looks like, and I don't think you can really claim to know exactly what the full picture looks like. I mean, there's some wanting to put their necks out there and I guess predict the future on what 5 years from now looks like, but I certainly wouldn't be one to do it because I have no idea. Because on the one hand, like I'm trying to learn how to even ask questions to politicians about this topic. Like it's not asking like, hey, your quarterback's coming back, so what do you think about your offense this year? It's like it's all trials and things like that. And so I just it's a new world for me to be dipping into and figuring out how to converse about. But part of what I was attempting to ask with the whole, do you see there being some kind of an agreement that can be reached to where the NCAA still exists as is? It's not exactly what it was, but it's still the NCAA. It's still the leading entity and all of that. Or is this the beginning of the end? And people have been claiming the death of the NCAA for like over a decade now at this point, and even more so right now than ever before. But the part that I didn't mention is that you've got just today the two leaders of the two biggest conferences who are working to try and solve the NCAA's issues. So as much as you talk about, it's going to be done with, they're going to split away. There's the committee that they're a part of is trying to help solve the issues at hand. So that's not necessarily the case. So that's what I was trying to get at, is this, if this is just one of the other moves being made to eventually just the great split, or whatever you want to call it, the big breakaway, whatever term you want to refer to it as. But there's just mixed messaging in that, because then you've got the two commissioners coming out today saying we're going to form this committee to try and get this thing sort of try to put some of the hay back in the barn. But I don't know what their ultimate motives are. So, yeah, we all speculate. We all wonder what's next and assume to have the better idea of what's all coming. But I think we're all really in the same place of having a pretty vague idea and all in agreement that we just know it's not going to be what it is now. And beyond that, we'll fill in the details as we go here at various points. But this lawsuit is a big one. The Big Ten and SEC commissioners coming out today with their vague, unnamed alliance. I mean, I don't mean vague negatively, of just like the announcement of it and just the purpose of it. We're kind of still figuring out what exactly this is going to be. They did, though, make sure to not give it a name like the previous alliance. They didn't trot it out and have a logo, as Ross pointed out in one of his articles. It's just going to be pretty much about business. But, yeah, where this leads next, I don't know, but we're on that track to figuring out what this thing's going to be here in the next few years, and that's for sure.
Thanks to some of you, the comments about our guest having the Attorney General from Tennessee on the show. You can't get yes or no if you don't ask. And so I appreciate, again, I keep saying Tim Meads, but he reached back out to me very quickly on Wednesday to make that happen, to give us, like, right in the middle of the battlefield, so to speak, with Tennessee in the middle of that lawsuit, along with the state of Virginia, and who knows who else might join it the rest of the way. When we come back, Grayson Grundhoefer, been a pretty good week for Baylor with what happened. Demetrius Brisbane of Chapel Hill. They've got a bunch of visitors coming on campus. His thoughts about what's going on right now, and is there a little bit of a surge? Because obviously you can never have enough of one. This is 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, LowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be. I think most of the focus when I mention or you see commercials about Low T, sex drive, ED, but it could be more than that. It could be a lot more than that. It could be your memory. It could be your energy, of course, because, I mean, my testosterone fuels your body. And these are men. Those of you who I'm talking to, 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of what is low testosterone. Dr. Kent Petty and his staff will try to help you out. By doing this, go to their website, pettycliniclowt.com. You can contact them. There's an email. There's a phone number. You make that first move. Tell them what you think could be a problem. Tell them what your symptoms are. There's nothing wrong with that. They deal with this every day. They will then see if you have the time, or when you can, go and get your blood work. They will set that up for you and take care of that appointment for you. They get the results, and if it's too low, your testosterone level, they can put you in a program to increase your testosterone level so you can become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be. Get it done at pettycliniclowt.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets, sirloin steaks, bone-in ribeyes, boneless ribeyes, and even prime rib. Cut specifically the way you want, the thickness that you want. They're all delicious. They have Norwegian salmon, mahi-mahi, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey, variety of cheese, and several options of sausage links, and even regular jalapeno or cheese snack sticks, fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, and ground beef, marinated beef or chicken fajitas, and always large briskets and tri-tip available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and tradition continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, a full-service butcher shop and bakery, open Monday through Saturday. The Bauer family, Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Thanks to Kim Coulter for the conversation earlier that led into all of the others about this being our 1000th show. Retired stockbroker, thank you. Super chat for the now who can match him? Now, we don't beg for the money, but if you want to do a super chat, we'd appreciate it. But retired stockbroker, Houston fan, got a big game with KU tomorrow up in Lawrence. Good luck with you on that. Thank you for the super chat on our nearly 4 years here pretty soon. Grayson Grundhafer joins us, Sikkim365.com. Bearcast co-host with Craig and also recruiting coordinator and analyst. Grayson, what a week it was. I know Demetrius Brisbane pretty well along with Ricky Stewart because of East Texas, but you could see this probably maybe or at least on the radar with Keenan Hall, who we had on yesterday. Your thoughts about how quickly this happened?
Yeah, I mean, this was one of those things where when Keenan Hall got hired, it was very clear that both Ricky Stewart and Demetrius Brisbane were going to visit Baylor. I mean, that wasn't really a shock at all. Keenan Hall has built some great relationships. And, I mean, you go look at SMU's 2025 class, they had a lot of really, really good prospects committed. And when you have guys like that, but a coach leaves, they're going to go recruit those guys. And I know I got a lot of backlash when Keenan Hall was first hired, just talking about, hey, he's got these relationships. He was the primary or secondary recruiter for these guys. It's something to watch for. And I know a lot of SMU fans were like, oh, I didn't know a secondary recruiter mattered that much. But, guys, I think it's pretty obvious that it does matter and that the relationships he's built have just really, really been impressive. And I think you saw that this weekend. I know I talked to Demetrius before the visit kind of after Keenan Hall was hired, and he straight up told me, I want to play for him. And so I think that made it pretty apparent from the jump that this was going to be a relationship that could potentially flip him from SMU to Baylor, and obviously it did that. As far as the other guys, Ricky Stewart being another one, right now I would say that's a battle between Baylor and Texas, and that's going to be a really interesting one to follow as well as he decommitted from SMU too. But yeah, getting Brisbane is a great start to this class. I mean, offers from Arkansas, Oregon, Texas, Missouri, Michigan. This is a guy who's just an absolute playmaker, an athlete in every sense of the word. And I know he plays quarterback at Chapel Hill. He runs the ball a ton as well. He's got over 10,000 yards over the past 3 years. I mean, he is a machine out there. And I think he's going to be looked at, I believe, as an athlete prospect. You're going to get him on campus, figure out where he fits the best. But ultimately, I do think he'll probably start out at safety when he does arrive at Baylor, which obviously won't be for a while. So there's still some time to figure that out.
So, Grayson, Demetrius Brisbane, as you mentioned, that was going to be my question of where does he fit in. So what do you feel like was the other, I guess, biggest news to know for Baylor fans this week on the recruiting front?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about Junior Day, but I think the biggest piece of news right now is how Baylor could finish the 2024 class. And I know that everyone's kind of moved past that and rushed to judgment on what that class is going to look like, but there was a lot of interesting news this week that I think was really important. So, a couple rankings updates where you look at Joseph Dodds, who's now a 4-star prospect on On3. So a little bit of a jump up there. And then you look at Alex Foster, who still hasn't signed with Baylor yet, but he had a huge jump up on 3. So he's all the way up at a 94 overall prospect, the number 152 prospect in the entire nation, and the number 1 prospect in Mississippi. So he finally got his ranking bump as well, which I mean, that's something that a lot of Baylor fans have been wanting to see. They want to see the national rankings move up, and they did this week for both of those guys. Now, as far as the outlook going forward, going into National Signing Day, the priority right now for Baylor is obviously, making sure that Alex Foster signs. Right now, I continue to feel good about it, and I have felt good about that for a while now. He's obviously the defensive lineman out of St. Joseph, 6'5", 275 pounds. He's been a major priority for the Baylor staff, pretty much since the beginning of this class, since they offered him. And now they're just trying to, shore things up and make sure he signs with the Bears and enrolls in the summer. And then the other piece, obviously, is Fort Bend Marshall safety Josh Lair, who was let out of his national letter of intent by Washington when Kalen DeBoer took the job at Alabama. And so now he's kind of been trying to figure out, what's the next stop for him. And Dave Rand and Matthew Palage visited with him on Monday. And then now fast forward to this weekend, and he's going to be at Baylor today and tomorrow. So a great opportunity for the Baylor staff to land a guy who's basically a fringe 4-star, basically an 89, high 3-star, low 4-star type prospect. I think he's definitely a 4-star prospect. I think he would probably be the second best prospect in this class, right behind Alex Foster, if the Bears are able to land him. But there's a lot of competition when you look at LSU, potentially Texas, and a couple of others as well. But those are the 2 main priorities, I think, going into this week. Alex Foster, and then figuring out if they can potentially land a huge commitment from a big-time prospect in Josh Lair.
Anytime there's a coaching change, or in this case, a lot of the staff changed, with Aranda taking over as the title of defensive coordinator and Hall and all the others that are a part of it, you get a surge. You get a little adrenaline rush. And then also you have to be careful about, is it a fake adrenaline rush? Can it be carried over onto the field? How would you describe at least the first, 30 to 50 days of this new staff?
I mean, I think it goes without saying. I mean, they're doing a great job on the recruiting trail, and it's really important. Now, I would also say that, like you mentioned, there's 2 components to this. Recruiting is a big part of this. You got to be able to build up the roster, acquire talent. That's how you build a roster that's set to compete for, this upcoming season, but also for the future, right? When you're building out the program, the way that Dave Aranda and this entire staff are trying to do that. And I would say the staff's done a great job. Whether you look at Jake Spavital, Chris Kapalovic, Jared Anderson, and of course, Keenan Hall, a lot of guys on this staff are recruiting at a very high level. Now, the other part of this is, how does that translate on the field? Because at the end of the day, I think anyone on the Baylor staff, I think anyone who covers Baylor would agree that you're only going to be able to sustain high-level recruiting if you actually get it done on the field. And so they're going to have to go into this offseason with that mindset of, hey, you know what? All this recruiting is great, but once the season starts, you kind of got to put that to the side for a second and actually go out there and compete on the field, because last year, obviously, they really struggled. The year before that was also a struggle. I mean, barely making a bowl game, kind of, really ending the season in a rough stretch. And you got to get back to playing really good football in the field. So my expectation is they're going to be a far better football team next year. But in order to sustain this level of recruiting, even with the new staff, you have to be able to win football games and show recruits, that there's a path towards success. Because right now, they believe in that, but you got to put it on the field when it matters during the fall.
Grayson, over on the basketball side of things, you got the Brittany Griner jersey retirement coming up. It's been a little bit of a struggle here for the ladies as of late, though. But with the men, how big was that in your eyes to get that win over UCF the other night and get out of that losing funk that they were in the past couple of weeks?
Yeah, so I think, first of all, I just want to make a comment on the Brittany Griner jersey retirement. That's really cool. And that was someone who, had just an epic career at Baylor, was so dominant. I mean, just watching games back then or just looking at pictures of, her back then, it just is like, man, this is an absolutely dominant player. And so that's really cool. And also to see this relationship be mended, because she's a Baylor legend, and you want to make sure that, she continues to love Baylor as much as Baylor fans love her. And so I think that's really important and really, really cool to see. Now, as far as the men's basketball side of things, it still has been a tough stretch, but I was really intrigued by the way that they responded against UCF, and especially because UCF came out and just threw some haymakers in that first half. I mean, they were making everything, and it really felt like, okay, here comes Baylor's defensive problems again. Here comes another team that's, shooting the lights out against Baylor, which has been, fairly common this season. But at the end of the day, Baylor responded. And they came out in the second half, played far more physical, played in much better control, and made shots. And at the end of the day, when it all came together, they were really able to pull away in that basketball game and find a way to just, scratch and claw and go on the road and win in the Big 12, which is really, really tough to do. And you look at the conference, it's just so deep. It's just really tough to win games. And to go on the road, beat UCF, a team that's beaten Texas and beaten Kansas this year, it's a big deal. Regardless of what you think of this team or what you think of their ceiling, it definitely adds a spark of momentum that they needed, especially going into a game on Saturday where they're playing one of the better teams in the Big 12 in Iowa State. So they needed that win. They got it, and it's a huge one for Scott Drew and the staff to build on.
Grayson, thank you very much. Craig, you got one more to add?
Yeah, just one more question, Grayson. Now I've had a couple of days to think about it further. Anything that popped out to you of particular interest when it came to that schedule release? I know we were able to talk about it on the podcast, but having marinated on it a little bit more, anything else come to mind when you look at that schedule for next year?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about it, but I think that the main thing that really stands out is, getting to play Colorado that first game in Big 12 play is really interesting. I think a lot of teams in the Big 12 would have loved to start with that game just because I think it's going to be nationally televised, especially if both teams come into the game, at least 2-1 or maybe 3-0 going into it. There's just going to be a lot of, I think, momentum and a lot of interest in seeing what that game is about. So I thought that was a really good one. I think playing Oklahoma State for homecoming is another one that I really like. And then, of course, that TCU game, playing them November 2nd, that's great and all. I'm wondering if that becomes something like this is the date that you play TCU every year, because I do think that would be really cool for both programs if there was a date that was locked in that you knew every year, Baylor plays TCU the first weekend in November or something along those lines, just to make it special, because there's really, there's three permanent, rivalries in this league, and that's one of them. And so I thought that was interesting as well, something that maybe we'll take note on later in the season. But in general, I think it's a schedule that is pretty favorable for Baylor, even though the teams and, where you're playing isn't ideal. I do think the way the schedule laid out, I don't know that it could have been any better for the Bears going into the 2024 season.
Good stuff. I like the thought that maybe TCU, Baylor, like any rivalry, we've discussed some that would be pushed back to the end of the year. Not all of them are. Even BYU and Utah a little bit earlier than normal, but that would be pretty cool. The first Saturday in November, whatever it might be. Thank you, Grayson. Have a great weekend. We'll be in Vegas next week, so we'll I think we're going to maybe get a piece of what you talk about with Alex Foster on Wednesday, National Signing Day. So that's Grayson Grundhafer with us on 365 Sports. One note, Scott Drew just around the corner, but I want to make sure Carl Weathers, a part of all the Rocky movies, is Apollo Creed. This Magnum Force, Semi-Tough, the Force 10 from Navarone, Death Hunt, Predator, Action Jackson, Hurricane Smith, Happy Gilmore. I could go on and on and on. Passed away at the age of 76. He and Apollo Creed and Sylvester Stallone, Weathers and Stallone. What a unbelievable story that was. Rest in peace, Carl Weathers. At the age of 76.
Yeah, great actor. I think Paul would be well served to be here today. I saw him make a tweet about this and the fact that Carl Weathers is perhaps better known for his comedic performances like Happy Gilmore, various others, as opposed to the Rocky movie or movies. But, a terrific actor, some very memorable roles, and certainly a place in the sports Hollywood history because of the roles that I just mentioned. So, rest in peace to Carl Weathers. That's a legend there.
All right, just got a note from Matt Roberts, who covers, of course, media relations for Baylor men's basketball. Coach Drew's running a little bit late. Obviously, they have Iowa State, right, tomorrow night in the nightcap in the Big 12, and a hell of a game with Iowa State coming off their win against KU. So we'll come back in the next hour. Scott Drew will join us. We also will hear from Chad Brendel from Bearcat Journal on Cincinnati, and Steven Johnson covers TCU and more. This is 365 Sports.
Cars priced right, day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak and Craig Smoak.
Baylor men's basketball coach, national championship coach Scott Drew joins Craig Smoak, David Smoak, 365 Sports. So you've told me that after a loss, you don't sleep. So how did you sleep Wednesday night when you finally got to bed?
Like a baby. The only problem is we didn't get in till probably, most of us probably didn't get to bed until 3 o'clock. So we had some issues coming back. But it was a blessing to be able to get back and obviously get a tough, hard-fought road win. And it sure feels good after a 3-game skid.
Coach, what was your experience like getting to go on the road to see a new conference mate, Johnny Dawkins and UCF and the Knights and all they have down there in Orlando?
Well, I think first, the weather's tremendous. Second of all, the hospitality and the way they took care of everybody was really outstanding, and shows why they were a great addition to the conference. It's in a great market, and Coach Dawkins has done a great job in a short time there as far as being a part of the Big 12. But that when you're part of a conference like the Big 12,
it's easy for fans to come out and support because they know it's a great competition, great game, and games, and a lot of excitement around the best league in the country.
I know you had been trying to tidy up some things, second half chance points for the opponent, free throws a little bit too, but also finishing. But there was a part of when I watched the games Wednesday night, Scott, that I thought, I don't know how many possessions, but the ball movement, moving the ball around almost to the point where it was like just clockwork. Did you notice that being better on Wednesday too?
Yes, to answer the question. But Central Florida's defense best in the country. Early on, I thought we had some early turnovers adjusting to it, but to only have one turnover in the second half, going back to what you were talking about, and especially the last 6 minutes, I mean, that was an offensive clinic as far as high percentage shots, great basketball, and executing down the stretch. And shooting 80% from the free throw line definitely was part of the victory.
Executing down the stretch, which finishing, closing it out, that's something that obviously bit you, where in the last week or so. Is that something that you were much more pleased with how they handled the adversity when you had the lead and UCF hit a couple of threes?
Absolutely. And I think we were talking to David Cook, a Baylor grad, and one of the best in the professions, and he really put some perspective on it. He said, you were ranked number 9 in the country. You lose 3 games by 1 possession, and if you change those, probably ranked top 2 or top 3 in the country. So you're 3 from being top. That's how close. And it was a refreshing way, I think, for our guys and our staff to look at it. And because again, I always equate losing to like working all week, not getting a paycheck.
Yeah.
I mean, and slice it, dice it. It hurts, doesn't feel good, affects you. And I thought that was a great perspective.
Did you see your team bounce back with even more focus and energy because of the win when you got back in the court here in Waco? We're human, and when you don't sleep for a night, the next day you're not very good. And today we were just okay. Tomorrow we hope to be a lot better. So I think today was good to get some of the junk out. Yesterday, obviously, we couldn't do much coming off of a late night and a cumulative effect of 3 overtime game, another road game, and then we play on Tuesday. So I know with Iowa State, they've had a tremendous year thus far, and they're a reason they're where they're at in conference. They beat us 3 times last year, so I know all our returning players know just how good they are.
Coach, I know there's not a lot of time to look in the rear view, and it's all about the next game, but Langston Love with a big performance for you the other night. Just wanted your thoughts on just his performance, and also just not the other night, but throughout the season, just what you've seen from him, what you've asked of him, and how he's been able to respond to what you need.
Yeah, great observation. And Langston's somebody that I don't know if there's a better 6th man in the country. And for us, it never matters who starts. It's we always call it a starting rotation, and obviously Langston's a big part of that. But first year ACL injury, second year come back from that, then eye injury. Finally being healthy long enough where he's able to feel comfortable, be in a groove. Physically, he looks great, and playing his best basketball since he's been at Baylor. And hopefully he can keep being consistent throughout the rest of the conference, because even though he's only in his second year and really only his first full year, he's one of our experienced guys.
I know you got media to get to, and we don't want to keep you from that. We appreciate your time. Is Yves Missi playing even a better level than you could have imagined, even though you're now past the midway point of his freshman year?
Yeah, I think, first of all, coming in out of high school, and at the time he was at Prolific Prep, he was a very good player, but he was probably your second go-to big as far as offensively goes. And to do what he's done, improve like he's improved, and it really helps everybody going against Jonathan Chamachacho and his leadership experience, and the horse whisperer or the coach, whatever you want to call him, but he's done a great job with him and Josh helping both of them along. But all 3 of those guys have together, iron sharpens iron. So I think it's a big reason for that credit. And Eve's somebody that, for his age, he picks up things really quick. And obviously the physicality is different in the Big 12, and he's not going to be 260 pounds by the end of the year. But the ability to pick up offensive sets, scouting reports, and things like sim offset maybe some of the strength deficiencies a freshman would have going against guys that are in their 6th, 7th year in college.
Thank you, Scott. See you tomorrow night. Should be a hell of a crowd. Great game.
Should be a great game. We will see you next year. Let's go Bears.
Yes, sir. That's Scott Drew, Baylor Bears men's basketball coach, national championship coach. He's always the same way. I mean, he was getting a little grumpy. You could imagine with the K-State game, overtime loss, then Texas, overtime loss. They didn't finish those games out in regulation. And then, of course, what happened as well, the third straight loss. And I was at that game against TCU. They couldn't close that game out, although the big three that put the game into overtime, but they never should have been in that position. But a hell of a win for TCU in the Foster Pavilion last Saturday night. When we come back, Chad Brendel, he covers Cincinnati. We've taken the Big 12 schedule release and gone around most of the Big 12, about 2/3 or so of the teams, and gotten the feedback from those who cover schools in the Big 12 on their schedule, the football schedule, also tweaking a couple of notes about college football and their roster and how they're doing. Chad Brendel next on 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on, and folks in Central Texas and beyond have been able to count on for over 20 years now at this point, and they have all sorts of great offers for you right now, starting and looking no further than not just the vehicles on the lot, but the great customer service. That's where it all begins. Richard Carr and his company and the people that you can count on a daily basis for your automotive needs all around their offices. And right now they have a lot full of quality pre-owned cars and trucks available to go and check out today. If you're looking to get into something that's already a little worn in but has the peace of mind that you're driving in a vehicle that's solid, sturdy, and in tip-top shape, well, Richard Carr can take care of that for you. They trade for the best, so they have a lot full of quality pre-owned cars and trucks. That includes 100 used cars and trucks to choose from right now, all inspected with that 172-point inspection. So you have that peace of mind and the Richard Carr seal of approval, plus a financing goal that is 100% credit approval, as they say yes when others say no. So there is an option if you're looking to buy pre-owned. Plenty to discuss when you go over to the dealership or give them a phone call or visit the website. But if you're looking to get into a new vehicle, well, right now, Buick has the perfect combination of first-class luxury and value like no other SUV, ranked #1 overall brand for new vehicle quality by J.D. Powers. The Buick Envision offers an amazing value, and right now you can save $5,000 on a Buick Envision, and qualified buyers can also get 1.9% financing on Buick's top-rated SUVs, plus military and first responders can save an additional $500 on top of that as well. And you can talk to the good folks over at Richard Carr about any of the restrictions that apply, but see dealer for details. That's what you can go and do. And they are there every day putting their best foot forward for the people of Central Texas and trying to get you into the vehicle or get the vehicle that you're in into the type of shape that lets you be happy, lets you not have to worry about any automobile issues. And so check them out today, whether it be looking at the new Buicks or their repair shop. They've got a lot of different options for you. In business for over 24 years in Central Texas, run by proud Central Texans and proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected. Get involved. Learn how at Baylor.edu/alumni.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
Thank you for calling your local Marco's Pizza. We're turning up the heat with our new Reaper Cheesy Bread. Fresh, house-made dough is topped with a spicy cheese blend infused with jalapeno, habanero, and Carolina Reaper peppers. At only $5.99, this limited-time product is a hot deal. Add it to your order while you can. A Marco's team member will be with you shortly.
Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it, and that offer on the Reaper Cheesy Bread is available right now at any of the 5 Marco's Pizza locations in Waco, including Belmead, China Spring, Robinson, Woodway, and Hewitt. Order online at marcos.com. Call for a pickup or delivery. Marco's Pizza is turning up the heat with their all-new Reaper Cheesy Bread with fresh, hot, house-made dough topped with a spicy cheese blend infused with jalapeno, habanero, and Carolina Reaper peppers, and only $5.99 and for a limited time only. Marco's Pizza, the fastest-growing pizza brand in America, 5 locations in Waco, and the new Reaper Cheesy Bread. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
This is 365 Sports.
The Sikkim 365 app is brought to you by Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Come by, let's be friends.
365 Sports continues on this Friday. As I have mentioned a couple of different times, we will broadcast from Las Vegas next week. The show will be on NFL Media Headquarters in Radio Row, just out, I guess, attached to the Mandalay Bay. We'll be there. Of course, great sponsors that help set that up for Super Bowl 58 in Vegas between the Chiefs and also, of course, the San Francisco 49ers. Chad Brendel joins us on 365 Sports Bearcat Journal. Chad, thanks for your time. It's been 3 days since the schedule was released by the Big 12. What were a couple of the highlights that caught your attention the most or has caught your attention the most since Tuesday?
Well, first off, I just want to volunteer my services in Vegas as, one of the world's foremost Travis Kelce authorities with a child named Kelce after the brothers.
Oh, that's right.
If you guys need me, you can fly me out to Vegas. I will accept.
All right. We might have space. You better be careful. You might get that call. Not kidding. We're set up with great stuff. And thanks for your time as always, Chad. On the schedule itself, were there a couple of things as someone that covers them, follows them, enjoys them that maybe popped out first?
For me, it's the start. I mean, if you look at the back half, the final 4 games, there's some, based on what we saw last year in the games Cincinnati played, there's challenges in those last 4 games. But the first 5, Arizona State, Colorado, Houston, UCF, you've got a chance to build some momentum in year 2 of the Scott Satterfield era. Or you have a chance to have this fan base in a complete panic if they don't start to get things turned around, because let's face it, again, much like we talked about last year, this is about as forgiving as it gets with a Big 12 schedule, especially early. This year, Cincinnati has to take advantage and make some hay in those, September, October games.
Chad, just what's the general feeling? I mean, the offseason is typically a very positive time for everybody ultimately. I mean, you lose players, you might lose some coaches, but for the most part, everybody feels like they're getting better. Just what's the sort of feel, I guess, as the offseason is fully underway now for Scott Satterfield in year 2?
I think there's a lot of anticipation on what the early returns are on Indiana transfer quarterback Brendan Sorsby. Emory Jones, as much as he left it all out on the field, the reality is when it mattered, he wasn't able to get the job done a year ago. And you guys know this. I'm not breaking any new ground here. You go as your quarterback goes, or at least you give yourself a lot more opportunity to win if your quarterback play is good. It was not good last year. It was below average. And in a lot of ways, that cost Cincinnati games where they were in and had a chance to win. I mean, I think if you look at the Baylor game, Baylor got better quarterback play. I thought overall Cincinnati probably played better than Baylor in that game, but Baylor's quarterback play was better. And that got Baylor the win. And if Cincinnati is going to bounce back in year 2, Brendan Sorsby has to be good. So, there's anticipation on what does the Indiana transfer look like in year 1 in Scott Satterfield's system.
Hey, I saw a couple of things. I follow you obviously on Twitter, and it's always very it's fun, energetic as well. But someone was bringing up today's news, the SEC and the Big Ten. And your comment was their resolution will absolutely be AFC, NFC setup that shuts everyone else out. And they will tell you it's good for the sport. In fact, somebody then followed up and said the 2 conferences who are claiming to try to save the sport are the ones who are actually destroying it. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we're not supposed to say that part out loud.
Yeah, we're not going to be a part of this NCAA much longer, you and me, right? Us.
I mean, supposedly the NCAA is kind of behind this. Allegedly, the NCAA, as we know it, is nearing its end. But what have we found out? Nothing about the NCAA rules and bylaws are legal. They're all illegal based on antitrust violations. So the rule book, if the NCAA is going to survive, the rule book has to be shredded. It cannot exist in its current iteration to be successful because now everybody has figured out, the NCAA ruled against me? Well, we'll go to court, and the NCAA has no chance to win. The O'Bannon case went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court voted 9-0, guys. Guess what? You could go to the Supreme Court with the sky is blue, and it would be 5-4.
Yeah, right. Yep.
The NCAA can't win in court. So if you can't win in court, then your rule book has to go. So either they scrap the rule book and they start over, or something else has to take the place of the NCAA. Today was a very loud step in that direction, I think.
Chad, looking back at that schedule, the road trips, Miami of Ohio early on, and we know that was a problematic game for Cincy just last year, going to Lubbock, going to Orlando, to Boulder, to Ames, to Manhattan. Some pretty good little venues. I mean, I know it's not necessarily like big metro cities and vacation spots, but I don't know, it seems like a tough but very interesting road schedule for the Bearcats.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. I mean, especially, Kansas State, Iowa State, those are 2 teams that generally really do a good job defending their home turf. This is the first year Cincinnati is going to get to experience only 4 conference home games and 5 conference road games. So that'll be interesting to see kind of how they navigate that as you've got kind of the numbers stacked against you. I think that all goes back to why last year was so frustrating. They had an easier schedule, not that it was easy, but it's set up well. You had 5 home games. They didn't win a single Big 12 home game. That's bad. And now you only got 4 this year. So defending Nippert, which has historically been one of the tougher places to play in the country, has got to become part of their DNA again, because winning on the road in this league is going to be really, really tough. I mean, I don't think we expect Colorado to be top of the league good yet, but going to Boulder and winning is not going to be a walk in the park. So, that it sets up for Cincinnati where there's going to be a ton of pressure on those home games, because you're going into a lot of environments that are going to be very difficult to navigate as the road team.
Chad, the men's basketball team, tough loss to West Virginia. They're down at the bottom in this conference, even if you're good. But we've seen teams that lose 3 in a row. Baylor, for example. Where are they, you think? It's been a while for an NCAA tournament appearance. They have an incredible history at Cincinnati. That doesn't have to be repeated at all. Where are they, in your opinion, as a basketball program right now?
They are a bubble team, and that's what the metrics say that they are. I think they have 2 games that really have kind of flipped this season. They had Texas beat at home, and they let it get away. You're up 2, under a minute. You've got a guy at the line shooting a 1-and-1, and he misses the front end. And Texas comes down, hits a shot to tie. They get a stop, and then they hit a second tough shot. Smith from the baseline on an angle that I don't even know how it worked, but he got it to go. And then Oklahoma, I don't know, guys. Are you guys seeing the same thing I am? Like, I respect Oklahoma's talent. I think they're really well coached. It doesn't feel like that's a team that's at the top of this league in terms of their roster. And they had Oklahoma in a position where they could have won that game. They let both of those get away at home. And when you do that, it magnifies going to a place like West Virginia and having a bad 5 minutes, which is what happened. They were up 10, 6.5 minutes to go, and they lost. It makes the math really hard, because now you're sitting at, instead of 4-4, now you're sitting at 3-5. And you've got to I think this team's in the tournament if they get to 9-9.
Yep, I agree. Anybody in the conference, I think, that gets to 9-9, unless they just played a horrible non-conference schedule. Right. Even then, if you get to 9-9 in this conference, you're going to have you'll have a lot of quad 1 wins along the way.
Right.
Yeah.
But now the math to get there is really difficult, because you now have to go 6-4. You've got Houston twice, home and away. You go to Oklahoma. You go to TCU. You go to UCF, which is another landmine, because that's a team that's not great, but they can win games at home, as Kansas and Texas found out. And, so they open – this is what I love about this league, guys. They open the season – they open conference play with 6 straight ranked opponents. 6 straight. Then you get this little 2-game gap, Central Florida at home, West Virginia on the road. Your next 3 are the top 3 teams in the league. Texas Tech on the road, Houston at home, Iowa State at home. There's no time to come up for air. And now you've got to go figure out how to get one of these games that you weren't expected to win because of the West Virginia loss. So I think they're really close to – I think they have a tournament talent team. But I don't know that they're going to get to the 9 wins that they need to because of that West Virginia loss. Coupled with those 2 home losses, you got to win at home in this league. You can't drop 2 that you should have won.
Yep, it can flip on you, and you're staring. And Kansas had more losses in their first 7 conference games ever under Bill Self and the credit run he's had. Baylor lost 3 in a row because they couldn't finish. And next thing you know, one of those and another one, next 2 overtime, and then it is crazy. Of the 2 sports, when they do strike it, and I'm not talking national championship, but I'm talking about competing and getting into the top 25 at Cincinnati. Final thing, will it be men's basketball or will it be football that gets there?
It's basketball because they're closer.
Okay.
The roster is really well constructed. Wes Miller has got the foundation and the culture of his program established. They're going to defend. They're going to rebound. They're going to be tough. You guys saw that when they came to Baylor. I mean, Baylor's more talented. Cincinnati refused to go away that entire game. And I think, you're one, maybe two more offensive weapons on this roster going forward from this being a consistent top 25 program. Football, I got to see it. I see better than I hear, as the great Marvin Lewis used to always say when he was with the Bengals. I got to see it with football before I can put them on that path that, go look at the losses in basketball. 1 point, 4 points, 5 points. I think Cincinnati's 3-5 with a positive plus minus on score over the 8 games.
I went to that Cincinnati game, and I told you that I'd text you. Skillings is fantastic. He is smooth.
Yeah.
He missed a dunk. He had a couple of that. He brought him back. He was the reason they had a chance, and it's unfortunate for him. But, yeah, he's really smooth. They got some dudes inside. They got some bodies inside that I was very impressed with as they get better and more experienced. But they're tough. You're right. And I like the way they played that game.
Yeah, that's how they've played. They were right there at Fog Allen Fieldhouse. It's a 2-point game down the stretch. And, they're close. I just think they need just a touch more offensively to really set them up. But they're right there. And Wes Miller's got this program in a good spot.
Thank you, Chad, as always, buddy. Have a great weekend. Chad Brendel with us from Bearcat Journal on Cincinnati, the football schedule, and also at the end, a couple of questions about the men's basketball and football teams, which one is ahead of the other. And he mentioned basketball. They've got an incredible history when it comes to the University of Cincinnati in basketball. Not that they don't have a nice history. It was just, 2 or 3 years ago, they're in the semifinals in college football when Fickle before he moved on to Wisconsin. When we come back, Steven Johnson, Fort Worth Star-Telegram, TCU, where they are in many ways. He'll join us next, and this is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop, 340 and east of 84 in Waco, the dealership with Ted Teague, the CEO and general manager. AJ is a sales rep among many great ones. He is the one that helped me when I was looking for a car back in 2020 during the summer, and he got a car that I love. Everything about it. Helped me go through the process of looking, and then all of a sudden getting me inside of that car. And that was a pre-owned car, a Ford Explorer. It's fantastic. The pre-owned cars they have on the lot are also, there's a bunch of them. And there are some, unfortunately, with some dealerships, that's hard to get enough of them to have really much to say about it. If you want to upgrade what you have, the vehicle you're driving, Alan Samuels can help you do that. They're located, by the way, that's in anywhere around Central Texas or anywhere you are where you can come to here in Waco and sit down and talk with somebody or also walk around the lot. I mentioned the 2024 Wagoneer. That is an alpha. An absolute alpha of a vehicle, but there's so much more. Ram Trucks, of course, the best name when it comes to all of the various awards they've done, they've been honored with, and then, of course, Jeep vehicles and so much more. You want pre-owned? They have it. A new vehicle selection that's very large. It's Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student-athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student-athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student-athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
All right, one more program in the Big 12 that we'll drop in on before we close out the week. We do have Paul Catalina coming up in about 20 minutes or so. He's up in Lawrence, Kansas to watch that University of U of H and KU game, number 4 against number 8 up at Allen Fieldhouse. But Stephen Johnson joins us from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. He covers TCU and has been there and has been many times on this particular show. Stephen, great to have you. Thanks for your time. What was the reaction, your thoughts, others' thoughts on TCU's schedule when it came out back on Tuesday of this week?
Well, I think the biggest thing was, for me personally, there are some better road trips this year. I'm looking forward for the trip to Stanford, going up to play Kansas at Arrowhead, going at Utah. But I think on a more serious note, I don't want to say TCU got necessarily a bad draw, but when you really think about the teams we think could contend in the Big 12 this year, Arizona, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, Kansas, even UCF now with KJ Jefferson committed, TCU has to play all those teams, man. And I think there's a steady balance. They get some at home, some away. But my biggest takeaway is if TCU wants to bounce back, they're going to have to probably go through the top of the conference this year.
Stephen, that non-conference schedule, Stanford obviously now in the ACC, but that's an interesting road trip that you pointed out. I mean, we'll see Long Island. That's kind of the layup game, but then SMU making their first appearance there in the ACC as a member. So they'll get some ACC battles there, but that's a pretty spicy non-con. It feels like we don't really quite know what Stanford's going to be. We expect SMU will be pretty good, but they should be a little battle-tested, I guess, before they enter Big 12 play.
Yeah, absolutely. 11 Power 4 conference games. 11 Power 4 games on their schedule. I'm not sure how many other teams in the country have that many. I wouldn't think it's much, but like you said, I imagine it'll be a road game, first game of the season. So those games are always going to be tricky, man. So I think TCU, even if you think they'll be the better team, Stanford could probably present a challenge. So like I said, you're going across the country. It's a Friday night game. I think about that Colorado game a couple years ago where TCU started off slow and had to pull away. So it wouldn't surprise me at all we see something similar. Even in that 4-game stretch before they get to SMU, of course, like I said, mentioned, you got UCF. I'm really interested to see what Gus Malzahn can do with KJ Jefferson. He just seems like the perfect type of quarterback for him. And then obviously SMU has a lot of belief, a lot of confidence of where their program was trending to after winning the AAC last year. So I'm sure they think they'll be able to make some noise. I know they had a pretty good transfer class. So it's a tough schedule, man. It is a tough schedule. There aren't a lot of games I automatically look on this schedule and just automatically mark a victory for TCU.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. I think it's be dangerous, like throwing darts blindfolded, because we don't know who's going to jump up, because the Big 12 always has a couple of teams, including what TCU did a couple of years ago, Baylor 3 years ago, among others. In fact, I don't know really how to do it, and those who transition into the conference. So you covered Joe Gillespie when he was the defensive coordinator in 2022, and they made the great run. You saw the story that he's now a high school coach in Waco. What do you remember? And I know 2023 didn't end very well. What do you remember about his role in that 2022 team?
Well, I think one thing that should never be in doubt is Joe Gillespie knows football. I always enjoy just listening to him talk. He has a very cerebral approach. He's just so knowledgeable about the game. And obviously, when he was let go, the players around TCU, even returning players, guys that are going to the draft, they were all upset just because they believe he's just that good of a coach, but obviously it didn't work out. But the biggest thing I remember from Joe from 2022 was just how they figured out a way to shut down that Texas team on the road in Austin. Bijan Robinson, Xavier Worthy. Most of the nucleus of this year's Texas playoff team were on that team last year. And they managed to, I believe, hold them without an offensive touchdown. That was just, I thought that was top-tier coaching. And I just thought the development of Dylan Horton, and obviously he got Travius Hodges-Tomlinson back to playing, I think, at the standard he was used to playing in the years before that. So those are probably the biggest takeaways. And he was a big part of them getting to the national championship game, no matter what happened this past season.
Well, go ahead, Craig. What are now the expectations after the fallback from last year? Have they retooled in the right spots, in the right places, in your opinion?
I think so. I don't want to say optimism, because I think there was that quiet optimism last year. I don't know. I probably came on the show. I told you guys I thought they would win 8 to 10 games last year, and was obviously wrong. But I think what TCU did this year, obviously they really are high on bringing in Andy Avalos over from Boise State. He has a track record both at Boise and at Oregon of having some really productive defenses that really get after the quarterback. So they're expecting, obviously, more improvement on the defensive side of the ball. And I think the biggest thing TCU did was they focused less on maybe trying to grab a former 4-star from Alabama or Florida or LSU. And they really prioritized guys that have been productive, whether that was in the Mountain West Conference with like an Eric McAllister and a couple linemen, or even going down to Louisiana Tech where they grabbed a 2-time all-conference offensive lineman. So I think the biggest thing they did was, hey, let's do less about potential and focus more on actual proven production. So I think they have some guys that can be immediate contributors next year.
Do they have their answer at quarterback? Is it Josh Hoover? Is that just far and away the clear answer in your mind?
I think so. That's why they had to navigate the transfer portal. I think they're really coming into the mindset they didn't want to bring anybody that would push Josh out, because they do believe he's the future of the program. So that's why they brought in Ken Seals from Vanderbilt. Has starting experience. He's a local kid, so he's the ideal type of backup quarterback where if Hoover gets hurt, you would throw in a guy that started over, I believe, 2 dozen games in the SEC. But they're very high on Josh Hoover. They think that second year with Kendall Browse and not playing at Oklahoma and Texas, that he'll see another big jump, kind of like what we saw from what he made in the spring before last season.
Stephen, the basketball team is really good. I saw them in person, all 3 of those overtimes. Man, they're explosive and obviously have been playing very, very well. What have you seen from them? And obviously moving forward, they're a dangerous team, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. They have the number 1 fast break offense in the country. Emmanuel Miller, I think, is an all Big 12 forward. He's a guy who hit a game winner against Houston, scored 20 at Kansas, scored almost 30 points against Oklahoma. And I think what you're seeing now is they brought back 5 returners and 5 transfers. So there was a little bit of a filling out process that needed to be done. They had to send Jameer Nelson down to the bench and insert Trey Tennyson into the starting lineup. And I think that switch has allowed them to be a lot better in the half court while also maintaining how dangerous they are on the break. The only thing I think this team is missing right now is they don't quite defend like they did last year, but they obviously, I think, are a better offensive team. So Dixon wants to see them improve a little bit on the defensive end, but, depending on their matchup in March, all the brackets kind of, I don't want to say they're a lock, but right now they have a greater than 80% chance of making the tournament. So assuming nothing, there's no collapse in February, I think they could be one of the most dangerous teams come March. And then right now I think they're projected around the 8th seed. They keep up their winning ways. Who knows how high they can rise, maybe to the 4 or 5 seed line if they just keep up their winning streak.
Is there a level of excitement for tomorrow, knowing that this is the last time that Texas will, at least as far as we know, be rolling in anytime soon?
Absolutely, and also it's a big deal, more so I think from TCU perspective. They're retiring the jersey of Kenrich Williams. They think Desmond Bain will be there. Former head coach Trent Johnson will be there. They're really trying to make that a spectacle. So I think they're more so excited about that, just honoring kind of one of the players that kind of helped start this rebuild for TCU from going, when I was coming up, TCU was kind of a doormat basketball program, and now, they're probably one of the top teams in the Big 12. So they're going to be honoring his jersey, the big NCAA tournament caliber game, and obviously that win for TCU will be another feather in their cap and another good win for their resume.
Stephen, Sonny Dykes, with the year that he had in 2022, that almost went flawlessly. I mean, other than like everybody else would have probably been bludgeoned by Georgia, but it was so good. And then last year, it probably, even though you had predicted, and that's, you're not the only one, 8, 9, 10 wins. How has he been? How is that not changed him? He is who he is. That's what makes him very good. But have you noticed anything about what he's saying or whatever else that might be different?
No, I would say his approach has been similar. Like I kind of mentioned how he, reshifted his focus in the transfer portal. But obviously, the great thing about working with Sonny and covering this team is, there are certain coaches when things aren't going the way, when the losses are piling up, they express it, they show it. But like you kind of mentioned, Sonny is who he is, so he's maintained that calm and cool approach. And I think, like I said, they're really excited about the defensive coordinator hire. They really think that could be the key. And I think, what were they, 0-4, 0-5 in those one-score games a year ago after they were great in 2022. So they think with some improvement on defense, and those things normally balance out. They were great in 22, weren't so great in 23. So you would hope the football guys would, give you a couple more bounces and you improve your record in those one-score games. So I think he believes the team will have a better chance of bouncing back next season. They're kind of going in maybe with less expectations, but they know the standard is they got to make a bowl game next year for sure.
Stephen, I don't think that you've been around long enough to have seen Baylor beat TCU in football. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but
he's only 50. I'm just yeah, Stephen, you're much younger than that.
It's been a while, is all I'm saying. I don't know that you've been on the beat long enough to have seen Baylor beat TCU in football, but that's obviously one of the 4 protected rivalries in this new Big 12. I was just curious from your standpoint and hearing TCU fans of just what kind of a sense of the importance of that rivalry do you get from the Frog side of things?
Oh, well, before I came here, like I'm from Memphis. I knew it was a rivalry because I vaguely remember, when that big game, I think, with Trayvon Boykin played, and that was the game that kept TCU out the playoff.
Yeah.
So I imagine it was a rivalry like your typical conference rival. But coming here to Fort Worth and learning more about the rivalry, being at those games, even though Baylor hasn't been great the last couple of years, it's intense, man. It's different. I wish they would have gave him a better nickname so it could kind of resonate a little bit more on the national scale. But I think it's one of the better rivalries in the Big 12 and certainly in the country when you think about Power 4 conferences, when you just think about how close the schools are, obviously the religious ties to both of them. And they have this history. TCU kept Baylor out of the playoff a couple years ago. Baylor knocked TCU out in that game I mentioned. So I think it's a great rivalry, and I think it speaks for itself when it's just one of the only 4 games that's going to be played annual in this new Big 12.
What's interesting about this, the new 4, along with we just saw 4 new teams, is you really don't know yet. There are some, I guess, from age, years, or even regionality like Baylor, TCU, but there's going to be a couple of rivalries we don't even know exist right now just because there'll be an intense game, maybe something that happens that's controversial. It'll be kind of fun to see how that morphs over the next 2 or 3 years here in this conference.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I see potential definitely for maybe a game like Arizona. Arizona's going to be one of those schools that wants to recruit more in Texas. I'm not sure how good they'd be. Obviously, they had the coaching change. But obviously, I think they're a school that TCU could kind of have maybe one of those intense battles with, and you see, fans clamoring for them to be on the schedule more. Obviously, there's some history with Utah back from their Mountain West Conference days. They play at Utah this year. So, like you, I'm excited to see what rivalries form and, like, if there's going to be a team or some teams that can kind of fill that power gap left by Texas and Oklahoma. Or are we just going to be in a situation where every single year there's going to be a different team that kind of rises up and, ascends to the top of the conference?
Thank you, Stephen. Hope you're doing well. Thank you.
Yes, appreciate you guys.
Stephen Johnson, Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Like what he does and covers TCU, the Frogs, and coming off 2022, which magical no matter the ending. And then last year, I guess that's in every conference. Maybe we're just more focused because this is the one we see day in and day out or week in and week out. Those touchdown or less last minute or two wins, and they had a bunch of them in 2022, and then last year. You just can't expect to do that week or every year. It's going to come back and flip on you.
Yeah, no, you can't do that every year. There's just certain years it's your year, and unfortunately for them, the luck ran out, and they didn't win the Big 12 title, and that was fine. You still made the playoff because you had such a good season up to that point, an undefeated regular season, and then you do get a huge semifinal win over Michigan that people just conveniently jump over when making their arguments about why nobody but the SEC or Big Ten matter. But then, you got embarrassed by Georgia, and that was a bad look, and that left a bad taste in your mouth and what would have otherwise been a tremendous year. It's a new team, same coaches for the most part, although Joe Gillespie's gone. But, last year they make the move with Kendall Briles. They lost a lot of talent, and it just didn't work out well. They didn't have that rabbit's foot. But this year with some of the same pieces, and I think the thing that stood out to me the most about what he talked about was how last year they went after, here's JoJo Earl from Alabama, and here's this kid from Alabama, and here's this kid from, big school. And we were, I guess, foolish enough or led to believe that, they'll just slide in and be the guys they were ranked as originally. And it's well, maybe there's a reason why that 4-star is not flourishing at Alabama right now. And it's not just that he's got a bunch of other 4 and 5 stars above him, it's just not an exact science that you just push them over to another team and they're going to perform like 4 stars. So, maybe there's still a lot of development to go or whatever, but they got some flashy names, and those guys weren't ready to perform all the way. And so I like that they're changing up that approach. I see a lot of Baylor fans complaining about, well, why are we getting this guy from Miami of Ohio, and why are we getting this guy from Valdosta State? And I don't think they've gotten anybody from those schools, but you get what I'm saying here. And it's well,
they got close to Miami, Ohio with Toledo.
Maybe that's because those are the best fits and not the guy who was at Georgia last year,
right?
Necessarily. And so I think just like you get wowed by stars in regular recruiting, people get wowed by stars or schools in the transfer portal. And just because you went and got a bunch of Alabama or Texas or Georgia guys doesn't mean that it's automatically going to translate into playing like those schools. So I think that's an interesting and probably needed change in approach, because I do think they were riding that high of all the attention that they got, and they were able to go pluck away some of those quote-unquote top-rated transfer guys. But it's more about fit, and those guys didn't fit the way they needed to fit for last year to be a better year than it was. When you're talking about going from playing for a national title to not even making a bowl game, I mean, that's a pretty steep drop-off, and that certainly couldn't have been what was expected no matter how many great players you lost off that previous team. So there's reasons why they had to figure out the quarterback situation. Clearly they've got that figured out now at this point. But, yeah, I'm really interested. I mean, year one was as good as it can get outside of a couple of outcomes, but you were one of the 2 last teams playing in the country. Last year, obviously, a bit of a wake-up call of it's a lot harder than it looked like in year number 1. We've got some major work to do, and they've been hard at that. You got to change at DC. I think Andy Avalos is a great hire. You're being more calculated about the transfer portal, as I just mentioned. You've got your quarterback. No more of this is he healthy song and dance as you had with Morris. And, so I don't know really what to expect of them right now, other than I do think they'll be improved from last year. But where they fall in line with the rest of the Big 12, I think they're right there in just that glut of teams that you don't really know who's going to be that much better than the other at the moment. And we probably won't have a great idea of that until they actually hit the field in the fall.
I have no idea. I do honestly think that you can look at the teams that are incoming, with some that have been better of late, of course, Utah being one of them, and then some of those who had joined last year, I don't have any idea how to pick the conference, and I'm glad I don't have to worry about it until sometime in the, I guess, month of July. And even then, I'm the one that picked West Virginia to finish last. I admitted that. I even, out in the open, transparent. Here's my 1 through 14, and that's okay. But I have no idea who's going to be the team that rises to the top. I know there's some we could look at, but I still don't know.
You start off with, Utah fans have already started to polish the trophy up. They're a segment of very cocky and probably trolling to some extent Utah fans that are just of the belief that they're going to roll in and roll over people. But I don't think Kansas State's going to sit there and take that. I think Kansas is certainly a team you can throw in that mix. I think Texas Tech, they're tempering expectations after last year, probably getting a little bit over their skis with the hype. And they learned a lesson there, but still finished strong. And so I think they'll be right in the mix, but just a quieter approach to the whole build-up to the season. And then, beyond that, West Virginia's obviously got to be mentioned because now the expectations are not that Neil Brown's going to get fired, but that he's not necessarily having to coach for his job, but that you expect him to now build off of what they did last year and continue to improve. So if they do that, then they'll be, right there squarely in the mix. And of course, there's going to be teams we don't expect to be good that'll be good, and teams we expect to be good that won't be as good as we think they will be. That's a given every single year, but it's a curious question about who eventually emerges to the top, but I do think that makes for a lot of fun speculation and makes for probably a lot of erratic records when it comes to making picks in the conference next year. I don't think you'll have somebody who's batting like a super great percentile because I do think a lot of the games are going to be like looking in the mirror in a lot of different ways as far as just the skill levels and all the different categories because there's no Texas and Oklahoma. You could just default and put one of those two at the top of your preseason rankings every year and feel pretty good about your chances. And last year that worked. Many years before that worked if you just put Oklahoma in that spot. And then we've had a Baylor or TCU jump up on occasion, but now there's no Texas and Oklahoma, fellas. All bets are off. Pick your poison because there's any number of teams that I just ran down and more that I didn't mention that could very well be in that mix. So it's going to be fun from that standpoint for sure.
And here's the thing. When you mention them, the other day there was not the chat, but I guess it was a text that said, you guys mentioned Oklahoma and Texas, and they go into that. Yes, Texas was down for their standard for over a decade with an occasional surge. But it's still a team loaded with talent and still a team that you could still, you knew if they played well, they probably were going to beat you unless you played really, really well. But it makes a difference they're both gone.
What was the point of the text, though?
Well, it's just say you guys act like with not Oklahoma, but with Texas leaving the conference, they haven't really been someone that's been in the way much at all. And I understand based on how they finished, but they're still such an important part of the history of the conference and who they are.
Yeah, and they're still the most talented team outside of Oklahoma on any given Saturday in the Big 12. You can argue that there's others that are more talented eventually, but on paper, no. And I think the facts bear that out. Now, there are years where you could claim that and it wasn't true, but I think obviously last year it was. I don't think you really want to argue last year very much, do you?
Yeah, and you hear about what they did last year was a team that when there were, the nuts were in the vice, they found a way to grind through that. Kansas State, Houston, whoever. Yeah. They still had the most or top one or two talented rosters in the conference, even when they were underperforming and underachieving for a decade.
Yeah, they just didn't have better coaching than a lot of those others. They didn't have better culture than a lot of those others, but more often than not, they had better talent on paper and on the field. And so I do understand that viewpoint, though. I don't think you can say that about Oklahoma because Oklahoma's been so steady, even if it's been a few years since they won the Big 12. They were pick Oklahoma, and you have like a 99% chance of that being right at the end of the year for a good stretch of time up until the last couple of years. But with Texas, I definitely understand that, but I think it was more about what they're capable of rather than what they are. And so you just always knew that even if they didn't look that good, they still were talented enough that if the right things fell in place on a given Saturday, they could go beat and play with just about anybody around. So, yeah, I think that's where the mindset came. But that doesn't have to be a part of the conversation anymore, nor does the Oklahoma aspect. And that's what I'm getting at is that's going to be really fun and interesting is you take out those automatic mentions and you just let doors open and just take your pick of who you think. And everybody's got an opinion, but I don't think any of us really know what that's going to look like next year. And it's going to be a lot of fun because there's not those two big logos in the room that you automatically default to, whether intentionally or not.
All right, I got a question speaking of that, because somebody asked me about this. With Texas and Oklahoma leaving for the SEC, Texas is still in the state where we broadcast. We cover college football. We cover Baylor, but we also have really changed a lot with what we do with the Big 12, and even today having people from around the country or this week. When those two leave, how much do you want to hear about them? Now, that doesn't mean your reaction will affect how we do it, but I'm curious about that. Are you good riddance, or are you still wanting to keep up with them with this show and also with yourself?
Well, I still want to, because I don't think that this is a Big 12 exclusive show.
I agree.
Nor do I want it to be. I mean, I enjoy the Big 12. Up until now, the team I've always rooted for has been in the Big 12. I still want to mostly cover the topics in the Big 12 the way that we've always done it. But yeah, I don't think that this is like they're no longer in the league, we don't talk about them anymore, because then we don't talk about anybody that's not in the league. And I don't want to do that. And I tell you right now, that's not feasible with a 3-hour show 5 days a week, year round. I mean, good luck with that. If we did a twice a week, 1 hour, then bam, we could do that no problem. 3 times a week, could do that no problem. But 15 hours a week, I mean, to think we're just going to be exclusive Big 12, I don't think is all that realistic, nor would it be all that fun. I mean, it's fun to interject a little something different here and there, but I can understand the folks who don't want to hear about them at all, and or hear about them a lot less. I mean, you'll definitely hear about them a lot less because they won't be in the Big 12 conversation that we're going to continue to have. But yeah, we're not going to just ignore and pretend like they're not there.
Michael DeHart, personally, I think you all should cover them as you have, which is, again, has been a part of us, just like we have an Ohio State, Michigan, USC, Oregon, Washington, whoever, Alabama writer. When we come back, Paul Catalina is in Lawrence, Kansas. Garrett, do you have that picture I sent you? Allen Fieldhouse, number 4 Houston, number 8 KU. This is from Joseph Duarte, who's become a regular on our show covering the Cougars. Kansas students waiting in line for tomorrow's game against Houston. I mean, they're going to be camped out like you see crazies at Cameron Indoor or any game that is a mega game, and especially when you have a pretty large university enrollment like KU.
Well, I know for KU that's probably business as usual in some ways, but that's really awesome for Houston when you stop and think about it. I know that they go to places in years past and they're ranked number 1 or they're ranked very highly, and there's people camping out when they were in the American Athletic Conference and all that. But I think that's a special moment for Houston athletics, is to have KU, a brand of that stature, that's camping out, and you can just feel the sense of the big game that it is, not just in the Big 12, but nationally. So, yeah, that's very cool for Kansas. It's also very, very cool for Kelvin Sampson and U of H. So that ought to be a monster, what's the word I'm looking for? Monster atmosphere and incredible game coming up tomorrow. So, yeah, looking forward to that.
So Paul is there. He sent us a text of a shirt that is Tang Gang. Tang Time. And he was told he was not allowed to buy this shirt. If he didn't buy it, we're about.
Can't even have him buy a shirt.
It's getting to the point where it's a dictatorship.
Yeah, I mean, I get it to some extent, but
we're going to come back with Paul from
Tang
there.
Time? Come on.
I mean,
they go back.
You know what can I say what I said? Can I say that?
I don't know what you said, so I don't know.
Were you Garrett? Can I say what I said about that shirt?
Go for it.
It sounded like a shirt a college kid would wear on his way out for the weekend, trying to find a girlfriend.
Tang Time.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I see where you're going with that.
All right. Even a 64-plus-year-old man can remember that. Now, when we come back, Paul Catalina from Lawrence, Kansas. This is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace, your hometown grocery store. Specials open. They're about to close in an hour. 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, also open tomorrow for most of the day. They have select choice and prime brisket on sale from $360 to $425 a pound. Bone-in pork chops for $205 a pound. Whole chickens, chicken drumsticks, $205 and $125 a pound. $125 and 75 cents a pound, excuse me. Ring bologna for $375. And I always wondered how they got bologna out of Bologna. I just always did. Pepper jack cheese, bone-in select ribeye steaks, bone-in choice ribeye steaks available, plus the knickknacks you need. For example, looking ahead to the Super Bowl, you're going to have the queso dip. They've got chips. They've got the cheese. They've got the meat. They got the sausage. They have the rotel. What you need, they have. Sausage and more if you want to put it on the grill for Super Bowl Sunday or even just this weekend. Plus cold beer and wine. Waco Custom Marketplace, your hometown grocery store, 425 Lake Gear Drive in Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, raise your cholesterol, and cause weight gain. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results. So if you're tired of being tired, call or go online at pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $165 a month, including lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, and follow-up visits, compared to $300 or more a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to drive 90 miles one way or the other and fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T has board-certified physician consultations and will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone. Contact Petty Clinic Low T for increased energy, improvement in sexual desire and performance, mood, concentration, even a decrease in body and belly fat. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, pettycliniclowt.com.
Cars priced right, day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak and Craig Smoak.
Thank you to a lot of you in the chat room. Some of you who we don't hear from very much, viewers, but thank you for being a part of it, answering the question I asked in the last segment about the future coverage, etc. We'll read some of that. Thank you again for your time. Paul Catalina is in Lawrence, Kansas, flew in yesterday, and we've got issues. Garrett, you need to be a part of this segment too.
Okay.
Paul, we're getting to a point now where you are in a dictatorship when it comes to what you're allowed to like, not like, and what you do, and it's got to stop.
Well, first of all, we're back in the hotel in Kansas City right now. But I will tell you that I don't know of a marriage that is not at least an autocracy dictatorship. There's not a lot of democracy. I mean, there's some. I feel like I get a little bit of say. But when I made the decision to get married, I knew exactly what I was doing, and I was making a deal with not a hostile party, our government. But
Hey, Paul, there's a major screeching noise in and out of every other 5 or 7 words. Garrett, I don't know if we can reconnect him with that, if he's trying to do something other than a cell phone in a hotel room. But at least we got him to talk about the dictatorship earlier today. We'll see if we can fix that up a little bit better before we go back to it. Let me go back to Mike Porter. I see you guys as a Big 12 first. Secondly, you cover all of college football. I live in Georgia. I'm always giddy when you mention Georgia Tech. By the way, hey, Haynes King. And then also even one day you even mentioned Kennesaw State. Thank you, Mike, for your chat in the chat room on 365 Sports. Paul, we're going to have to figure out another way. It's something that's interference. It sounds like an old ham radio or something, the way it's popping up. So
yeah, I don't know.
We'll try to redial that up or figure that out.
I don't know what that is. I've never heard that.
It's an interference. That's what it is. I don't know why it would be with a cell phone unless he's trying to do it through his computer. That could be what it is.
Or through his car, maybe. And
he's in the hotel room.
Okay, well, I don't know. Well, he can figure that out. But, yeah, that wasn't going to be very good for the ears for anybody to have that intermittently popping off like that. So we'll try to get him a nice job trying to get him in trouble right out of the gates. So if he was in the car, you were making sure to throw him right under the bus. So I know you love to do that. That was great to get him in trouble there on this fantastic trip. But no, it's a good little trip for him to go on, I think, and a very big basketball game that he'll be watching that we were just talking about. And so hopefully we can reconnect here. But as to that recent message you read, and yeah, appreciate you. Definitely have more eyes on Georgia Tech right now than probably ever before with Haynes King there at quarterback, being a Texas guy, being an East Texas guy more specifically, and knowing his dad and having covered Longview where he went to high school for a very long time, for decades. But, that's a program we'll definitely be talking more about and appreciate you. And we'll definitely be Big 12, I think, heavier than most everybody, but we're going to definitely
we're going to cover the stories that matter. Right?
Exactly right, yeah.
Scores matter, standings, players, teams, etc. We're now rejoined by Paul Catalina. Okay, we've had a discussion about your answer that was very flimsy on the dictatorship. So I mentioned the Tang Time T-shirt. Did you buy it?
No, I did not, but I'm about to.
Okay, good.
So,
because if you don't bring home one for me, and I guess I'm a large and I'll pay you back, then I'll be very... It's going to create a problem. All right.
No, I got you. I got you covered.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So first time there, Allen Fieldhouse. We just showed a video of students are all lined up already, and of course it's nearly 18 hours or so away, maybe 20 hours away. Your thoughts about just being there? It's the historical point in the country when it comes to college basketball.
Yeah, I can't wait to go and actually get in the arena tomorrow. Especially, Kansas is an underdog at home, which means that those kids out there waiting in line are essentially rabid right now. I mean, they're going to be so keyed up and ready to go. And Houston is such a fantastic team that's coming in that this is probably going to be one of the games of the year in college basketball in any conference, but might even be the one in the Big 12. And Bill Self has a great record when he is the lower ranked team at home at Allen Fieldhouse. So Kelvin Sampson gets a shot to take out that record. I'm trembling with anticipation to get to go to one of the great sports venues in the world anyway. I think it's going to be absolutely electric.
So Paul, do you get that sense kind of about town? And I know that, I can't remember if you ever said, I know you haven't been to a KU basketball game, but have you been to Lawrence proper, at all? Have you been around there before? And just do you kind of get a sense of a big game around town feel?
No, I mean, I've seen Kansas play here in Kansas City a bunch of times in the Big 12 tournament, and that feels like a home game when they're here. But no, I mean, as far as in Lawrence, no, I've never been. Amanda hasn't been since she's been back in college, and Rami hasn't been since he was a little kid. So it's going to be kind of that feel of excitement for all of them to get back in there. But yeah, there's certainly you feel it around town of the how electric the whole thing, campus feels like that's the center of the whole place, the heartbeat of it. that nothing else that goes on there is near as important as that, even though they're probably doing great work in a lot of things at the University of Kansas, but definitely not as important to everybody as what goes on in that building.
Yeah, the academia is there. It's a part of that.
Yeah. It's a fantastic school. It's great. But, again, right now no one cares because Houston's coming here tomorrow. They could build a robot.
Exactly.
No one would care.
Yeah. Just to clarify who Rami is, that's Amanda's brother, because everyone was on the chat room started wondering if you already had a child. But
well, he does, just not.
Not Rami. But but Kim Coulter, the static you heard was Paul's wife stepping in to prevent him from saying something stupid on the Tang Time T-shirt.
That might have been true. She's glaring at me across the room right now.
Yeah, okay. Shocking.
Paul, what are on the to-do list? I mean, are there like Kansas hotspots you've been told that you have to go experience? I mean, is there like a legendary bar that you get to go to?
Yeah,
what are the plans here?
Yeah, tomorrow we're going to go to Mass Street, which is the college bar street that's there. And do all that. There's a Hall of Fame there in the thing, but yeah, we're gonna hit all the Kansas student hotspots. And I'm sure I'll fit right in. I'm sure I'll fit totally in and not be the old guy in the bar.
Hey, I want to ask you this, and we'll get back to KU, Allen Fieldhouse, U of H, but Carl Weathers passed away.
I love Carl Weathers. I was a huge fan of his. It was just Apollo Creed. He was, fantastic Apollo Creed. And he was in The Mandalorian. He's in the Star Wars universe. He was good in that too. But I'll tell you, as a person who loves comedy, one of the funniest dudes in Hollywood. He was funny in everything he did. He was in Happy Gilmore, played Chubbs, the former golf pro, and his instructor. And then he played himself on a show called Arrested Development, and he was so funny on that show and ridiculous that even knowing he was a funny guy and other that he had a knack for comedy. And then people even forget that he was a Raider. He's an NFL player. Before he got into Hollywood. So yeah, it's a bummer we lost Carl Weathers because everything he was in was good. Heck, he was in Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger. So I mean, just tons of great stuff he did.
All right, so you may not know this because you've been on vacation, but we had a cookie cake, which I know you missed. It said, "Happy 1000th show." I think we discussed that. Craig's not going to keep count anymore. He's done until we get to 50,000, and I won't be around when that happens. Can you believe it's like 4 years? It's okay, but that we hit 1,000 shows today?
Well, I mean, we had quite a few doubters when we started.
Oh, yes, I have some of them in Twitter direct messages. Yes, I do have them.
We did. And then, the other thing about it was, we started, during the pandemic, and we didn't know, what was going to happen 3 months, 6 months, how long we were going to be doing this or what was going to happen. And, we're very lucky to be where we are, but I also think 1,000 shows and to get to where we are, almost 40,000 subscribers. And I get emails every day from people trying to sell us YouTube consultantships telling us we're doing it wrong. And we could be getting more, but I only will find out the secret if I pay them $5,000.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, yeah, look, I've already told Scientology no. I can tell no too. So there's no rhyme or reason for how we got where we were in the during the Big 12 times and picked up all these great viewers and fans and listeners and all that. And I'm grateful every day that it's happened and it's worked out so well. In 1,000 shows, and I hope to do 100,000 more. I mean, honestly, it's just so great how it's been, and meeting people from all over the country. Which we were local radio hosts, we would do that occasionally, but this has just been more than I could have ever imagined.
Yeah, it's a climb from the upstairs of your house, the goat in Woodrow waiting there on the stairs, the great Woodrow, and then Craig at his TV table or card table. I was at one, and then you, of course, were at the desk. There's some great days that we did back in the day. And then Garrett finally came over from the the dark side.
Yep, I came back.
And was a part of it from a pretty good entry of it. Jack and Emery and Levi, too. I wanted to bring them up. All right, so not that I want any of your expertise on KU basketball. We had Matt Tate on a couple of days ago. So what have you learned? What has Rami or Amanda told you how Kansas wins this game, other than the fact that they'll shoot twice as many free throws as Houston, even though Houston's the one that plays really good defense?
They've got to get something off the bench. They really do. Rami, in particular, is very excited about Furphy. Kind of the new stud they have. That's their legit sixth man right now. He scored a bunch of points the last couple games. He's really helped take their offense up a level. But they can't. They've got to play a lot better. They've got to get a lead and hold it like they have done against Oklahoma State. But they bookended wins over Oklahoma State with 3 losses, and in those 3 losses, they fell behind in every game. I mean, so actually, if you look at what's going on with Kansas and what's going on with Baylor right now, the teams are different and their styles are different, but it's kind of the same way they roll through games, in that they fall behind, they're not in control, and then they're trying to wrestle back control. And look, if you're Kansas, that's not the kind of basketball you're used to playing under Bill Self. You're used to playing a game when you're in control, and they have not been completely in control during this stretch. And that's what they need to do. They need to go out there and let the fog, bleed into their veins a little bit, and be in control. But the opponent that's across the way is also used to that same kind of style of being in control of these games. So it's the definition of push coming to shove, and immovable force and all those things. It's probably going to be pretty violent, I would think, tomorrow between these two teams.
One of the things that is interesting about him is that when I had that stat that blew me away, it's the first time that Bill Self had ever been 4-3 in the conference, ever. In all of his years, they never had a 4-3 record in the conference. How much does McCullough, besides the obvious, and this we'll wrap it up so you can go get whatever with what you're going to do with Amanda and Rami and go enjoy the rest of the evening and the weekend. How much with McCullough out does that hurt?
It would hurt. I mean, and again, I guess it's not final on what's going to happen with him, but it would hurt a ton. He's been, I don't want to, you can't really say their best player, but I think he's been the biggest surprise and one of their best players. He's really elevated himself to where, I thought going into the year he was a fringe NBA draftable player, where I think now, he's showed that he can do a lot of different things, and he's become a better shooter. He's become a better scorer. He's become better everything. So, this Houston team's deep and they're tough. And so any kind of lack of depth you have, and that's Kansas's problem anyway, right? They're not as deep as they probably have been in the past. And then the guys they thought were going to be depth, like Nick Timberlake, he's shooting 20%, right? So they're not getting any points. So you take away McCullough's offense from them in a game where they're going to need it against one of the best defensive teams year in and year out in the country, that would not be good.
Thank you, Paul. Enjoy the weekend. And Paul Catalina, 365 Sports up in Lawrence, Kansas. Kansas City now just around the corner at a hotel as they are there to watch Houston against KU tomorrow at Allen Fieldhouse. That is a banger of 2 top 10 teams.
Yeah, I saw our old producer Armstrong, who was pointing out that I guess the ACC started to get a little offended by all of the Big 12 love, especially from guys like John Rothstein, because I guess the ACC network or the ACC Twitter account made a little comment about, kind of popping back off about who the best sort of was. Yep. I don't remember the exact context of it, but the Big 12 is loaded in basketball. There can be debates about that, but I don't think there's any debate that that's one of the bigger games we're going to see. Not just this weekend, but in the Big 12 regular season is Houston and Kansas up in Lawrence, and what a game that should be. So, yeah, that'll be quite the experience for Paul to come back and talk about. Y'all have to find some time during Super Bowl week to actually have time to talk about that with all the various guests and things that'll be going on. But, he's going to have a great time, and happy for him to go up there and see the sights and sounds. And I think all of us would love to be able to go up and see Allen Fieldhouse at some point in time because it's such a legendary venue. So, yeah, what a great weekend and game to pick to do that, and hope he has a lot of fun.
I was there for 2 football games, did the show from inside the stadium, and I guess maybe because it was an off week from Midway, so we wouldn't cover the game on Saturday. And it is a beautiful place. It really is. Lawrence, Kansas, the drive into Lawrence, which isn't far from KC, but I had a chance just to kind of slide through the entrance into Allen Fieldhouse, somebody that was there that helped me get that opportunity, just to glance. Kind of like when I was at Notre Dame and got to see what they have at UCLA when we went there on a training camp one time to go see what they have at Poly Pavilion. And even Lexington, Kentucky, when the women played there back in the day when they had Nina Davis in that team. And that was awesome to be a part of Rupp Arena. When we come back, a couple of more notes. We're going to go back to the story of the day and then also read some of your chats on when you found us. And a lot of it's going to be realignment. We understand that, and some of you have already said that. Also, men's basketball, the actual schedule tomorrow. And then on top of that, kind of that story that was there today. Every day there's something with the Big Ten and also the SEC having an advisory council to discuss what's best for them, college football, and others. This is 365 Sports.
February is here, and so are the big savings during the President's Day sale at Allen Samuels in Waco. New inventory is out on the lot right now and ready for immediate delivery. Ram 1500 is the most luxurious and technologically advanced Ram 1500 ever. Looking for an SUV? Have your pick of a Jeep Grand Cherokee, Compass, and Renegades. Need a mid-sized truck to get the job done? Drive a new Jeep Gladiator. President's Day sale event is a winner at Allen Samuels in Waco. Come by. Let's be friends.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Nitchie Group Insurance Agency. With the Nitchie Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Nitchie Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Nitchie Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Looking to connect with Baylor alums in your area? Baylor Alumni can help. Looking to host a watch party in your city? Baylor Alumni can get you started. Want to step out in your community and serve with other alums? Baylor Alumni is your connection with the university and each other. Let's get started. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Allen Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Allen Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560 or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Some of you responding, thank you, to the question about where did you find us, when did you find us. Sir blah, blah, blah came looking for realignment news after Texas OU. Stayed because I like the host. Thank you. Retired stockbroker, let me see here. Oh, I got to be careful I read his before I read his. S. Michael DeHart, I truly believe that Craig, Paul, and you have brought a fantastic product about the Big 12 sports and college football as a whole. Thank you very much. And then Katie Rader made the comment about, right before realignment when I started watching maybe a couple of years ago, which was about the summer of 21 was when Texas and OU in July, when that story popped. So thank you. Trying to read some of those as we go along the way. Let's see here. All right. Now, the basketball schedule for tomorrow. We had the KU update with Paul up in Lawrence. Hell of a schedule tomorrow. Starting out with a game, 2 unranked teams. Kansas State hit and miss on the road in Stillwater against Oklahoma State after they were blown out by KU, as expected. Texas is now 3-5 in the Big 12. They play at TCU, who is really good. TCU, if they win that game, they're in a position where they had fallen out of the top 25, gotten back in the top 25. They won at Baylor and just beat Tech. They could be inside the top 20, or maybe should be if they beat Texas or not. Well, if they win the game, most likely jump close to in the top 20 if they win that game.
Well, yeah, if they beat Texas, they're going to be still within the top 25. Yeah.
No, I'm talking about like jump maybe into the top 20 because they have Texas Tech 15th, Baylor 18th, and won both of those games.
Yeah, no, they'll stick around to be sure, and that is a game that you anti-Texas people definitely want to see, TCU win to kind of put Texas back where they were before the Rodney Terry outburst against UCF that turned into them suddenly winning back-to-back games and all of a sudden looking very much alive again. And now that's kind of started to swing back the other direction as they've lost a couple in a row. So who is Texas really? I think they were who they were before the outburst. And then they, timing-wise, were fortunate to get a couple of big wins to keep them alive and spirited, and now they've lost a couple in a row again. You can kind of feel it starting to swing back to where it was pre-eruption.
Right, yeah.
And so, yeah, they really need a win, but that is going to be a lively atmosphere in Fort Worth, as our buddy Steven pointed out. We didn't even say it, Kenrich Williams, a Waco guy. I mean, right?
Yeah.
Is he from Waco University, wasn't he?
Kendrick Williams from University High.
Right, that they're retiring his jersey. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
We didn't even mention that when Steven was talking about it. So they're having that ceremony tomorrow. So that's a cool local note, is that there's a guy in Kenrich Williams that's going to have his jersey retired by TCU, even though his playing career didn't wrap up that long ago in Fort Worth. But that'll add some extra spice to it, just having Texas roll in for the final time. That'll add something else to it, and the fact that you just got a pretty good basketball game. So, yeah, that ought to be a lively one there in Fort Worth and an important game for both those teams because all of a sudden Texas has lost 3 in a row.
Well, if they lose again, their first top 75 win was the game at home to Baylor, and that was an overtime game. And you're right, they've kind of gone back to who they were before Rodney Terry got mad at UCF.
Yeah.
And they go 3-6 in this conference. That doesn't mean you can't come out of it, but they don't have a lot of quality wins, even with that win or two in a row. They need some wins.
The response to UCF is what I was saying. It was like they went when they won a couple of games, but if they don't do that, I mean, they're dead in the water basically at this point. So that was huge for them. The timing was just magnificent because they had that obviously ugly, I guess, kind of PR look and the fact that you lost the game, but then you go and you beat Baylor, and who'd they beat right after that? Was it
Oklahoma.
Yeah, Oklahoma.
And then lost at BYU.
So then you're feeling pretty good, though. Like you beat a top-ranked or top 15-ish Baylor team, beat a good Oklahoma squad who's a top 25 in and out. So, yeah, that was good for them. But as we've mentioned, it's gone back off the rails a little bit. So, yeah, tomorrow, very important game for Texas to try to get off the schneid. And then for TCU with all the festivities, the fact that they're sitting there in the upper, I guess, Tier B, Tier 2 of the standings right now, but just a game behind overall in the conference standings. They're sitting there tied right now with Kansas. Then you've only got Texas Tech, Iowa State, and Houston in front of you. So TCU's in a really good spot. So that'd be a great win for them. And then Kansas State above that, I want to make mention real quick. I mean, they should handle the Cowboys. We know what it's like right now in Stillwater, but K-State needs a win. I mean, they don't want to go to 4-5 in Big 12 play and all of a sudden be under 500 in the league. So they're definitely going to want to go out and get one on the road there against what's an ailing Cowboys squad at the moment.
Now, after that, there's the Houston KU game we brought up. Oklahoma, they're in need of a win. At UCF, that game again in Orlando where we saw Baylor come back twice down in the first half, kind of got nibbled back into it and then got down again. So that game, that'll be rowdy down there. Cincinnati, who Chad Brendel was talking about, playing in Lubbock after the loss they just had to Texas Tech. They're going to be tough to beat in Lubbock.
Yeah, I mean, Oklahoma is not facing a ton of pressure, but I think there is an element of that, and they too are in a spot where you don't want to dip under 500 in Big 12 play. They're right there at 4-4 right now. But UCF can get a little rowdy, and so we'll see if they start off as hot shooting as they did the other night against Baylor, which was just like they could not
They had
miss a
14
shot.
threes and lost at home.
Yeah, they could not miss a shot, but just couldn't hang on and finish the job there. So, yeah, they definitely gave Baylor a little bit of nerves, but now an opportunity against Oklahoma, and I'm so quick to say, well, it's the last time they'll ever – well, I mean, they can still play each other in basketball, but this is certainly the last time they'll ever host Oklahoma as conference mates in basketball. So that alone, I think, makes that just a unique game, not a sellout necessarily, but maybe because that's not going to happen ever again is Oklahoma being a basketball conference mate, barring something completely unforeseen. Tech finally got dealt a loss. I mean, that was great news for the rest of the league. They
were quietly leading the conference. Our fans, our Tech fans, were reminding us, but it was kind of like not even discussed much, not by us but others.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of wanted to interject here and there of like, meanwhile, Tech's just keep going about their business, and they're just winning games. And, they were sitting there by themselves for a good little bit on top of the conference standings, and you wondered, like, are they going to lose again? And, of course, they're going to, but it just happened the other night. So they finally got dealt that second Big 12 loss, and now that puts them square with Iowa State. As far as just the records go, who's on a pretty good little run right now. Houston's the hottest team, though, in the Big 12 at the moment. But, that's a big one for Tech, and we know Cincinnati. I mean, Chad laid it out for them, the frustrations, the struggles, but there's hope there, more so as opposed to football and kind of what you feel like they're going to get done quick enough there. Basketball has been a game of inches in some cases. So, that ought to be a pretty good little game out in Lubbock tomorrow.
BYU, they're right there. They're under 500. But they also have some nice wins. And at West Virginia, that's a long trip for the Cougars to fly into Morgantown against an alien team in West Virginia that they need a win. They're also kind of there. But BYU, pretty good shape, but they need to kind of get a couple more nuggets in the left-hand side of that win-loss column to kind of make sure everything's going to be okay.
Well, I mean, they're going to be fine in the long run. I think the big deal with them here lately is just that you played arguably the two best teams in the conference back-to-back, and people can have their debates on it, but as far as the top of the standings, you had a couple losses, and it was in Lubbock and in a close game, and then it was right back home against Houston in a respectable showing there, and then you turn around and you beat Texas. I mean, the two losses that kind of dipped them a little bit were to two teams that might be the top two teams in the league, and that's just life in this league. So, I think BYU's still in good shape, but definitely want to avoid falling into the lose two, win one or two, lose two, win one or two, lose two, and then all of a sudden you find yourself and you're sinking a little bit.
West Virginia on the road, if they go in there and get a win, get out of there.
Yeah.
They then play at Oklahoma, who's hit and missed right now, but that's
two big road
on
trips.
the road. But Kansas State, UCF, and Oklahoma State after those, all at home. Oklahoma State's on the road. So there's a chance they can make up some ground and get to that just above. You want to always just get yourself, or better, nudge about 500. You get to 8-10 or 9-9 in the Big 12, you're going to be fine pretty much think you're going to be fine when it comes to the tournament. Iowa State, Baylor tomorrow night here at the Foster Pavilion. Baylor needs to win that game at home, and after losing a week ago, it's a night game. Now, how many of those on a Saturday? Night game is on ESPN2. Iowa State, as Scott Drew mentioned earlier, I forgot that until he mentioned it, beat Baylor 3 times, home and away, and in the tournament last year.
Yeah, they have their number, and that was Scott Drew not basically paying rent for Hilton there for several years?
Yeah,
he was basically the landlord.
And then started
and I say that just jokingly, but I mean, he had no problem going to Ames and winning there for a good little run. And a lot of teams do have that problem or have had that problem. And there was just something about going to Hilton that they typically walked out with a win. And then last year, obviously couldn't buy a win against Iowa State. I mean, to go 0 for 3 is just a bad feeling, and it's a bad look because typically you're going to grab one of those types of games in all of those various settings, tournament, neutral, home, away. I mean, you're going to grab a win somewhere, and they couldn't. Iowa State had their number, and if they have their number again tomorrow, that's going to be a tough thing to see at home. Because, man, Foster Pavilion's built for wins, and that's why you rushed getting it started up is for this stretch right here. And when teams like Iowa State, borderline top 10 team, come rolling in, I'd imagine that crowd's going to be super hot. And I've heard it's not the biggest building, it's not the biggest crowd, but because of the way it's built, it gets very, very loud in there. And so I'd imagine it's going to get pretty loud tomorrow, and that should be just a fantastic little matchup between TJ Otzelberger and Scott Drew and two very talented rosters. So, yeah, that's a big top 20 game there, and whoever comes out with a win there, I mean, if it's Iowa State, they're sitting real pretty. They'll be, depending on what Houston does, right there at the very top of the standings. And then for Baylor, I mean, they're flirting with that 500 league record as well. They lose tomorrow, they're right at 4-4 all of a sudden. You win, you're at 5-3, and you're feeling great about things. So that's a big game for both squads.
All right, finally, the top 10 outside of the conference. UConn, number 1 on the road against Rick Pitino and St. John's. Marquette at Georgetown. Duke and North Carolina. You'll see 1,000 promos on that game every time they play, a couple of times a year during the regular season.
Rightfully so.
The history of those two, of course, marvelous. And then Tennessee and Rick Barnes, tough, gritty, good. At Kentucky, I think Kentucky, just as my mind that sometimes can remember things, may have lost a couple of games in a row. And now at home against a number 5 Tennessee at Rupp Arena in Lexington, Kentucky.
Well, I don't know about Kentucky's record, but there's a magical machine where you can look those things up, and I'll double-check on that.
It's weird,
to see
though.
if they
I can't tell you something from 3 hours ago, but for some reason I think Kentucky's lost to South Carolina and then somebody else like Florida in the last couple of games.
They lost to Florida in OT Wednesday.
Cha-ching.
And they beat Arkansas, and they lost to South Carolina last Tuesday.
Oh, close enough. That's close enough. That's 2 out of 3, yeah.
Last 3, but you know, when we're talking about the change in the conferences, I'm curious how the injection of Oklahoma and Texas over into SEC basketball, what that kind of looks like, and who knows what Texas or Oklahoma even, look like. Is it going to be all that different from what we're seeing right now? Is there any kind of a recruiting boost? I mean, I think basketball recruiting is pretty straightforward. I don't think conferences matter as much as they do in football, but just what does that kind of look out there, lay out in the league? And you've got a lot of, really good programs like Tennessee and Kentucky right there in front of us to stare at. But with them leaving, I don't think it takes much away from the Big 12 at all. I think that's one area where you're like, okay, like in football it's noticeable, but I don't think when you roll out the basketball schedule for next year, you're like, man, that road trip to Norman's not on here anymore. Like, that's a big step down. I don't think you feel that at all. So this is one area where I think the Big 12 set up really, really well. How much does it add to the SEC? We'll see, but I don't think it takes away a ton, to be perfectly honest, with the basketball side of things for the Big 12.
All right, so there's the college basketball schedule. Back on the chat room. Garrett, we have one more break?
No more breaks.
Okay, no more breaks. Back on the schedules from S. Michael DeHart. Again, remember, he's West Virginia fan. And then we lost Michael for a little bit. He kind of had to go through some ups and downs. It was great to see him come back. He's been back now for several months, but it was great to have him back. Like several of us outside the Waco area, I came on board when the OU Texas fleeing the Big 12 hit. While searching about that, found you all, and I've never looked back. Thank you, S. Michael DeHart. We appreciate that.
Well, we appreciate that, and I think one thing we can take solace in, and we're definitely not the originators of YouTube by any means, but I do feel like we helped get kind of the launching point of college football, college athletics talk on YouTube. Definitely, like I said, not the first. Others that can be mentioned as well, but I do feel like when it came to realignment and all those types of things, there's a perfect storm of COVID, everybody's looking for something, and then realignment hits like shortly after that, and just this crazy world, and we happen to be able to be right place, right time, right subject matter to experience that with everybody and make a lot of good relationships and gain a lot of great listeners and viewers. So we definitely appreciate whenever you join. But yeah, certainly realignment was a hot issue when Texas and Oklahoma just out of nowhere, really. We always knew like they were tempting and checking out and looking, and it was never going to be a long, never-ending marriage with the Big 12. But that was just very abrupt and just how out of nowhere it kind of was. And I still wonder very much of when were we going to find that out on their timeline? Not on the Brett Zorneman found out and then let the whole world know before they were ready. But when were we really supposed to hear about those plans? Like how much more time would the Big 12 have had? Like 8 less months to go and try to save themselves? Were they going to have like a whole year less of time to go and try to grab BYU and Houston and complete the foursome to at least keep the conference floating above water in the eyes of the public? I don't know, but that was a crazy time period. And then since we've obviously had another whole decimation of an entire conference for the most part. We'll see what happens with the Pac-2, but obviously another 4 onboarding to the Big 12. So realignment's been a consistent theme throughout the show, and it will continue to be because obviously, as we've been talking about, the court cases can get a little bit tiresome, but we all know they're leading somewhere that has very much to do with more realignment and maybe even bigger than just teams switching leagues. We'll see how big, but yeah, we're going to be for all of that, and we'll see what impact it has on the Big 12, but everybody across the country. And so, yeah, that's definitely something we'll always be tied to is realignment.
Clay
sure.
Brown, I miss you and you guys on the radio, and I'm not sure how I found you, but I look forward now to the program every day.
Thank you.
Which reminds me, we are on TV or on YouTube, and you have the video. There is Sikkim 365 app, and yes, the Android, it doesn't help matters if you don't have the iPhone, where you can also watch or listen to us. But you can, like right down the street, if you're in the app on your phone, truck, whatever it might be, you can listen to us. But thank you, Clay. Glad you found us and part of the growth of what we do on 365 Sports. And it's amazing how very rarely do I go somewhere where somebody the other day at the Foster Pavilion, one of the volunteers, as you walk outside the Foster Pavilion from the media exit, and he was like, "Hey, how do I get you guys when I'm sitting here?" And I gave him the app. We downloaded the app, and he started listening to us. One of the replays at the time. We appreciate that too. It's always great to have that. Alan Samuels is the sponsor of the Sikkim 365 app that we have.
Yeah, I mean that's just the most convenient way, and with most cars nowadays, that is simply as easy as it gets. The same as turning on the radio. Yep. The only difference is it may not turn on automatically, but it's only a couple clicks, and that app's connected to your Bluetooth, and you're listening just like it's regular radio. That's how I listen to everything, is basically through my phone at this point. But yeah, that's that app is an easy way, free app to go and download for Apple users, and that way wherever you are, if you're not able to get to YouTube, and I know how annoying YouTube can be on phones as well when your screen goes dark and it stops and all of that. With the app, you don't have to worry about all of that stuff. So yeah, that's definitely another option for folks who may not have been aware.
Speaking of which, as we wrap it up tonight, if you don't mind, forget to hit the like button. Subscribe. We've discussed it. If you don't mind, if you haven't, spread the word. We're above 38,000 viewers. And there was a time when I remember it was, maybe single digits. And then, of course, it started to mount and grow and grow and grow. So, again, hit the like and subscribe button if you can. And also, thank you for those of you who have subscribed. And if you don't mind, continue to do that. Today, we appreciate the super chats that we had on this 1,000 show. We will be, Craig's going to stay back here, smart, avoiding Las Vegas. We will be, Garrett, flying on the Big Bird into Las Vegas Airport Sunday afternoon, setting up at NFL Media Headquarters in Radio Row off the Mandalay Bay, and forced to cover Super Bowl 58. The atmosphere, the energy will bring it back to this show and the guests. Like Darren Woodson's a guest. He's up for the Hall of Fame this year. Paul Tagliabue, former NFL commissioner, and others that we will have. I got a request in the mail today from somebody that has that's like a soulful type event, a concert, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Woo. They asked you, do you, that's right now that's my wheelhouse, right? So I was like, if we could get somebody from Earth, Wind, and Fire on, that's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, that'd be pretty dope.
So those are the, it's going to be a lot of personalities, media, and also former players, Hall of Famers, and those up for the Hall of Fame that we'll have on the show.
Yeah, it's just going to be a little remote broadcast, so you'll have a little more activity going on than when it's normally here in studio, and I know you guys are going to have a great time and have a lot of fun. Super Bowl is rowdy. Been there plenty of times. Had a great time the last time I was out there, but I will promise this, I will be in Vegas for Big 12 Media Days. Like, we're going to make that happen.
We had a deal.
No, there was no deal. But, yeah, I will be.
Had it been a deal that you had to go to this one to go to that one, would you have gone?
Probably not. Probably no, for the various reasons that I have that are legitimate, like that why I'm not going. But no, I don't think I would have done that because, again, the reasons why or why. But, no, I'll definitely be in Vegas and try to fit in, I guess, a week's worth that y'all have. I mean, gosh, y'all are going to have a lot of time out there.
Yeah, we'll be there maybe 3 days unless we want to accidentally go there a couple of days early in the summer to Vegas.
What?
2 days of media
days, yeah. Whereas this is going to be like 7 days.
We might accidentally. No, we're actually coming back Friday.
Okay, well, 6 days.
It's still, 6 full days, yeah.
But, yeah, so I'll definitely, and, yeah, maybe squeeze in an extra day in Vegas just for a little more play time. But I'll be around here, and if something breaks, I mean, National Signing Day number 2, I'll interject on Wednesday's show for a little bit to talk about whatever goes on nationally, Big 12-wise, Baylor-wise, and I'll be around for that. But, yeah, I'll be a phone call or text away, and when you guys get back after Vegas, after whatever little appearances I make, I'll be right back in this chair, and y'all be back here, and we'll get back to just regular business. But it'll be nice to have a little bit of a disruption with a big event like the Super Bowl in the background. I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say about your experiences in Vegas. That'll be great.
All right. Thank you, Craig. And Jack McKenzie put together all of the artwork and the logos, and that we'll knock that out and show that to you on Monday. Thanks to, I want to say this ahead of time, Alan Samuels' House of Travel reached out to me and wanted to know if they could get involved in some of our travel. Now, we don't travel, but maybe 2 to 4 times a year, depending on Baylor football and a bowl game, which 2 years ago was a drive to Fort Worth that was always was not memorable. And then also, we've been to New Orleans, the Sugar Bowl, Vegas, the Big 12 Media Day. So they are the ones who are footing the bill when it comes to our airline tickets and an Airbnb while we're in Vegas this time, and hopefully that will be the case in July with Big 12 Media Days. Garrett, see you on Sunday at some point, right?
Yes, sir.
Maybe even take you up into Love Field. I'm not real sure. Emery will be there. Paul will be there. Garrett and I will be there. And you will be there because we'll bring back the atmosphere and the energy to you as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, and there will always be, to keep in mind, I think you already know this, but we're primarily college football, dipping a few other things, obviously going to be dipping major, but there's always college football crossover connections. A lot of these former players, whatever schools they went to, and all those same types of topics we talk can certainly get mixed into the Super Bowl radio road talk as well as it typically does. So, yeah, don't fret. There will be realignment discussion, I'm sure, at some point in time with like a guy who's from the Big Ten, circles or whatever and all of that. So, yeah, whatever news breaks, we'll be on top of it no matter what and where we are.
All right. Thank you so much to everybody. 1,000 shows and now counting since we started back in April of 2020. For Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, we didn't bring this up, but good luck to, I guess, Kansas, although we'd like to see them lose, just for his own personal welfare and health. Also, Garrett
Make her
Russ.
sound like she's going to
No, you would have no idea the text messages I got last week.
She's very passionate.
No, it was bad.
Good luck to the Catalinas on just having a great experience. Let's say that. I can't say I'm just like rooting for Kansas for that reason in particular for his health, but yeah, good luck and hope they have a great time. Let's say that.
She screamed at me in a text message when Baylor lost.
Yeah.
That's how weird it was. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend. We appreciate you. Love it as a family. 365 Sports. See you Monday from Vegas. Good night.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you